Australia's Test Tour of the West Indies starts June 25.
What about that? Unbelievable!
Catch every ball on the ABC Listen app. Just look for the cricket button.
ABC Sport.
On ABC Sport, this is the AFL.
Route to steady and finish!
It's close to the goal line and Marty got there! Another one!
Sit back, relax, witness the greatest. It don't get better than this.
Rampy from 55 and right on the way home. Huge bend off and kicks the goal. The skipper off a step finishes.
Take a seat, 'cause it don't get better than this.
Right foot strike. He's got it. Oh, the home fans like that. Takes a bounce. Unguarded goal square. He's got it. Reed's going to go for goal. Oh my goodness. That truly is remarkable.
This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
Take a seat, 'cause it don't get better than this.
On radio, on digital, and on the ABC Listen app.
You take a seat, 'cause it don't get better than this.
It's now or never for Port Adelaide and Sydney, two contenders last year who have ridden a roller coaster since their preliminary final meeting and are now attempting a miracle run into finals. The Power piecing together some form with 2 wins in a row. Meanwhile, Sydney are hoping the momentum of their emphatic win over Richmond has remained through their bye. Gee, they've been bolstered by the selection news, though. A superstar quartet coming in. Matt Roberts back from illness. Joel Amartey returns from suspension. Tom Papley back after a fractured heel that he suffered during the opening round bye, so he's been out for 2 months. And Errol Goulden, the dual All-Australian and best and fairest winner for Sydney, plays his first game of 2025. So certainly they will be bolstered by those inclusions. Port Adelaide, it's the polar opposite. Ollie Wines and Aaliyah out with medial issues, and there's a late change as well. So Joe Berry, originally named to return, is now out through illness. Jeremy Finlayson comes in as the sub for the 3rd time this season. The sub for the Swans will be Riley Bice. Great to have you with us for the middle game. It's part of this Saturday trifecta on ABC Sport. Aaron Bryant's calling the action, and alongside me is Tom Wilson. Afternoon, Tommy.
Good to see you, Aaron, and good afternoon to everyone. Perfect day for footy. It's just wonderful. I was going for a drive this morning. The sun through the sunroof. It was actually beautiful, and pumped for this game. Huge opportunity for Port Adelaide, but those outs are going to hurt. And we know Jason Horne-Francis has been nursing a shoulder injury all week. That'll be heavily strapped, no doubt jabbed to remove the pain. It impacted his darts, according to Tyson Goldsack, the assistant coach, but let's hope it doesn't hurt his footy. This is going to be a ripper with both teams' seasons on the line.
You've been out of training during the week as part of your television commitments. How is he actually looking out there? Because from all reports it sounded very ginger.
Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday he was basically carrying it like he had a sling on. He didn't have a sling on, but that was the way he was sort of moving. And then yesterday a few of the players were bumping into him and tackling him pretty lightly, but he's going to have to endure some pain, but that's part of top-level footy. I'm sure Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson would have experienced in their careers.
Good way to segue into our Premiership stars in the ABC Sport box this afternoon. Jamo, good to see you.
Aaron, thank you. Tom, yes, pleasure to be here once again. Adelaide Oval looking spectacular. Blue skies, cracking game ahead.
Brogues, welcome back. Long time no see.
Oh, good to be here. What a day for football, and what a massive game for both of these teams. Are Port Adelaide back? Won 2 in a row, been pretty good wins. Can they get 3 in a row? They got Carlton next week. All of a sudden, their season's back alive. And for Sydney, well, it's the last roll of the dice, really. They need to get going. This is their strongest side they've picked all year. They're starting to get their best 22 back together. This is going to be an absolute cracker.
Names out through the year for Sydney: Mills, Goulden, Papley, Amartey, Adams, McInerney, Cunningham, McDonald. So they've been up against it. Is this afternoon the moment it finally clicks for Dean Cox's men as they play Port Adelaide at a venue that they have struggled with? They haven't beat Port here since 2015, and the Power have won 9 of their last 10 meetings. The only loss was the all-important prelim final of last year, where Sydney managed to knock them off by 6 goals. Callum Mills has won the coin toss, so Sydney will be kicking to the left-hand side of your radio dial, the northern cathedral end here at the Adelaide Oval. We have just reached our top of 19, so the temperature will slowly drop through the game, but perfect conditions, as Tom mentioned. Final tips, Jamo, who's winning?
I think it's going to be a lot closer than we think too. Just at the moment, like Ollie Wines out, Aaliyah. just the ball-winning ability, the intercept marking ability, and what the role that Aliir plays. Sydney are nowhere near their top, albeit Port Adelaide won their last two. I think it's going to be a lot closer. I'll tip Port Adelaide, though.
Brogues?
Yeah, I think Port will get the job done. Sydney aren't playing at any sort of high level, and I think Port are on the march.
Text line 0437 774 774 to get in touch. The Roos upset the Blues earlier. Can Sydney do the same at the Adelaide Oval against the Power? Here's Tom Wilson.
So looking at the matchups, row bottom on Butters, Bergman and Heaney go at it. So in the middle of the ground, Visentini beat Grundy in the ruck, but Grundy gathered the footy. His handball was blocked first by Burgoyne and then stolen by Heaney. A dangerous kick inboard towards Goulden was intercepted by Burne-Jones. That kick was smothered. Then Butters' handball was smothered. Good pressure here from the Swans. Couple of gang tackles there. And we'll have a ball up at centre half forward for the Swans.
Well, it is on. Both teams are going at each other when they got to their positions. This is going to be a cracking game.
Tossed up half forward for Sydney. Grundy down to Chad Warner. Handball missed its target. Butters barges into the big ruckman Grundy and loses the footy in the process. Roberts takes his time and then flings a kick into the scoreboard pocket. It's picked up by Radaglia. Under pressure, his handball's a turnover. Straight to McInerney, who pounces. And he gives it to Kane Farrell as well. Justin McInerney strikes. And Sydney's on the board in the opening minute. One straight six, Port yet to score on ABC Sport.
Well, Radaglia has been in super form, but he wish he had that time. Wish he had his time back again. That was a horrible handball across the goal. It's a big no-no in football. He should have just rushed it through. But the pressure of Sydney in that first couple of minutes, they've clearly come to play today. But yeah, horrible mistake by Radaglia.
I think their intent off the back line straight away, wasn't it? They got at Port Adelaide. They were able to smother on a couple of occasions. Port were able to get one in there too, but they just kept moving the footy forward. Radaglia playing probably his best game he's ever played for the club last week. One touch, one goal.
1 minute, one goal as well. Jamo back in the middle of the ground. Grundy, Visentini. The Port ruckman knocks it towards Burgoyne, who tackled Heaney out of it. Grundy gathered and kicked a dribbling ball forward. Sin leads the race in front of Papley, who's back into the team today. The handball goes to Burgoyne, bit of 1-2. Burgoyne to Sin. Another handball from Sin. They finally get a kick away. A kick forward through Drew, up towards half forward, but Nick Blakey on his own takes the mark at right half back for Sydney.
Fresh off a career-high 34 touches against Richmond. His kick's a treacherous one across half-back. Sweet got a hand in, paddled it down to Mead, lowers the eyes, dinks it to Horne-Francis, just a little long. The Hornets running out of room. Wicks is closing, close to the boundary line. He's tackled and swung over the line. It'll be tossed into play right on the paint of 50, right half forward for Port Adelaide.
Horne-Francis got that shoulder, coming in with the shoulder injury. He's got that heavily strapped, so we'll just keep an eye on that through the game and see if it affects him.
So boundary throw in. Mills is on. Horne-Francis at the moment. It clean bowls both ruckman and falls in the lap of Butters, who handballs to Drew, to Bergman, slaps on the right. But this would be an absolute ripping goal. Just goes across the face. And they're just going to check if Matty Roberts marked this on the line or if it was already over for a minor score. So we'll have a score review. There's a almost goal of the year contender there from Bergman. We know how skillful he is.
Just through the front of the pack, I think that's what would be disappointing for Dean Cox, just to be able to get two handballs forward from a boundary throw-in. You've got to defensively set up better than that.
Looking at these angles, we'd see the ball's controlled before crossing the back of the behind line. Decision on the scoreboard.
So Matt Roberts, the SA boy, South Adelaide boy, Brogues, takes the mark on the behind line, so no score. So the Swans remain at one straight six and the Power yet to score 3.5 minutes in.
He's got about 60 metres here. There's no one on the mark at all.
Matty Roberts staring into the sun. Had a fortnight off with the illness before the bye. Decides to steer his way to the eastern side. Kicks a little hot over the back of the pack. Amadi goes low. Can't gather. Mills can. The skipper around the body. High up towards the logo. Back with the flight. What a mark. Launching into it was McInerney. Flung himself into Bergman, has a runner, back to Mills, drives it into the 50. Port have the outnumber, but it's put down by Visentini. Radagalia's done well, although Meads had a fumble as well. Trying to receive the handball, now he's under some pressure. Knocked away by Goulden, picked up by Chad Warner. The Swans have the footy again, left half forward. Roybottom crunched, but got it to Goulden. Kicks a little bit long for Radaglia, who was waiting in the hole, and it's knocked over the boundary line. Left forward pocket for Sydney, who lead by 6.
Well, Port look a little bit jumpy. Sydney are all over them. Their energy levels are super at the moment. Port just look a little bit jumpy.
3 inside 50s to 1. Grundy knocks it down, Rove by Rowbottom, but he's tackled immediately by his direct opponent in Butters. And we'll have a ball up 35 metres out from the Swannies' goal.
Keeping an eye on it too, but I think Josh Sim was a little lucky there. He actually fisted that to the boundary line, 2 metres inside, and the umpire just said throw it in.
So Jordan roved it, handball towards Amati, back to McInerney, and he finds a teammate on the lead in Heaney, who marks 35 metres out on a 45-degree angle.
I think you're right, Brogues, too. They are a bit jumpy. There's been several times that Port Adelaide players have fumbled when they should have taken it really cleanly, but once again in those passages of play, the Sydney players are just up and at them in their grill and putting pressure on them.
With injuries this year, Heaney's had to do a lot on his own. He's kicked 15 goals from his 13 games so far. Still finding plenty of the footy. Comes in, 40 metres out. He's riding it. Couldn't quite sneak it through, away to the left, minus score. Sydney go to 1-1-7. Port Adelaide yet to score. Almost 6 minutes gone first term for ABC Sport.
So Port looking for an early answer. Farrell in the defensive goal square doesn't have many options. Finally called to play on. Spots Butters. Takes the mark. Close to left half back. It's a dangerous handball. Gave it across and a crunching tackle from McInerney holding the ball. Free kick. He's sold his skipper into tremendous trouble. Connor Rosie comes off the deck licking his wounds, and Justin McInerney has been a star early for Sydney. This is disposal 4 on top of his early goal. McInerney low dart into the scoreboard pocket, trying to favour the leader McLean, but Burgoyne read it best. Cuts it off and the kicks across the goal face, misses Powpepper and is knocked over the boundary line. Port's defensive skills really copping a spotlight here.
They just look a bit rattled at the moment, don't they, Port Adelaide? They're not sure if they should be switching, going down the line. They're fumbly.
Just don't look sharp at all.
That was a dangerous ball across goal. Boundary throw in. Heaney's trying to rove. He does. Has a flying shot on goal, but misses everything. Away to the left and dribbles over the boundary line. We'll have a throw in next to the left behind post. Swans leading by 7 points. Port have moved away from that handball game, but they have been forced to handball so far because of all the pressure from Sydney. Throw in again. Grundy in front. Bergman, he was diving over the top of that. 2 Sydney players dive over him, and we'll have another ball up 25 metres out from Sydney's goal, just around to the left.
Well, 3 really significant ins too. Goulden back, as you touched on, Papley, but also Amati as the target up forward for Sydney.
Both rucks entangled. Sameed pounces. Quick kick out of the 50. Floating across was Goulden. Got a hand in. Knocked it down to Blakey. Swings the kick across the body. Central 20 out. Another fumble. Zerk Thatcher's put it down. Becomes the tackler though on Amati, and his second effort is rewarded. Free kick to Port Adelaide, and Brandon Zerk Thatcher got away with one there.
Well, Marty got away with 2 of them. Port Adelaide players, that is. Zerk Thatcher, good tackle.
Swans by 7. Zerk Thatcher exits to the broadcast wing.
Looking for Georgiades, who was nursed under it by McCartan. Wins the free kick for a push in the back. Ball just went out over the boundary line, so he's just had to run and get it at right half back.
He was good last week, Tom, wasn't he?
Oh, outstanding. Career game.
7 goal 4.
10 marks. So Georgiades goes down the line looking for Powpepper. Got 2 hands on the ball but dropped it. Blakey was dumped in a tackle by Powpepper. His handball got back to Papley. Well gathered by Goulden, but rode the tackle from Burton. Holding the ball, says the umpire. They took the advantage, Port Adelaide, but was their advantage. Another dropped handball by Bergman and a turnover. Missed handball also by Heaney. In goes Vizentini on Blakey. His handball's forward. Gathered by Campbell. He took on the tackles, not rewarded. Big one there from Moraes, holds him up. We'll have a ball up about 70 metres from Sydney's goal.
Couple of errors early from both sides. Grundy wins it down. Vicentini falls over the footy. Picked up. Good handball. Richards uses Burton, looping it over the top. Rioli left the footy behind. New Cunningham was coming, did well. Ball ricochets to Butters. Burton now kicks wide to the eastern side. Burgoyne, they've got the overlap. Burn-Jones at left half forward. Lowers the eyes and drills it to Richards, who started it all. He takes the mark, 45 out. Tight angle to the left.
It's almost if they need to take a breath, Port Adelaide, at the moment. Just slow down, be more composed. They're winning the football, but they're turning it over. And when they do have it, they are trying to get it on quickly. But the pressure that is being applied, or the looping kick, looping handball that they're setting their teammate up with, is just causing pressure.
Long approach for Joe Richards. He starts in front of the Williams stand. Just the 2 goals across his last 6 games. Arcs around, the kick will go across the face. Players converge. Grundy was the only one who flew, but went for the fist. Straight down to Mead. He's set upon by a couple of Swans. And 20 out from goal. We'll get a ball up in Port Adelaide's 50. Still yet to score, trailing by 7.
Just their second inside 50. That one's knocked out of the ruck towards Richards. Butters is diving over the top, gathered by Mead. Quickly gets it to Willie Rioli. Just pulled it away to the left from the snap. He's capable of kicking those ones from the left forward pocket. Not this time. That's their first score. They're 1 behind. Sydney 1-1-7. 10 minutes gone first term.
I don't think I've ever seen a kicking efficiency as low at the moment. Sydney have had 15 kicks in this first quarter. They're only going at 13%.
Blakey plays on from the defensive goal square. A long, powerful kick towards the square. Marty flies late. Knocked it down front and square was Goulden. Hacks it forward. Francis rises. Radaglia stayed down and pushed him out of the launch. Free kick to the South Australian Swan. Has a runner. Here's the dual Australian Goulden. Perfect pass. Dropped it low, straight to Hayward, who's right in front, bang on 50.
Geez, he's a good player, Goulden, and he's missed, 14 weeks. He just comes in and he's just a special player. Every time he gets the footy, something happens, and they've really missed him this year.
Incredible foot skills.
Will Hayward, the North Adelaide product, 17 goals, 8 this year. Emblematic of the Swans' goal kickers. He leads them, largely small forwards or midfielders. Hayward comes in, kick is straight, doesn't have enough power, and on the goal line it's knocked through for a minor score by Zerk Thatcher. Sydney move to 1-2-8 and restore that 7-point advantage. Port Adelaide just the 1 behind. 11 played in the opening term. On the text line, the Unley Cat says, I picked Port Adelaide, so they're doomed given my tips.
Another turnover, an inboard ball from Burgoyne, miss. Farrell, 3 Swans just take him like a rugby tackle forward. And we'll have a ball up 35 metres out from the Swans' goal. Unusual for Burgoyne to be making this many mistakes. It's his milestone 50th game. From the hit out, Rowbottom got it to Roberts, but it was smothered. Ended up in the hands of Horn Francis to Bergman. Handball too hot for Liddy. But Richards lays a strong tackle there. It's on Cunningham, and we'll have a ball up just forward of centre wing for the Swans. Outer side of Adelaide Oval, the Swans lead by 7 points.
Saturday footy on ABC Sports. Sweet with a great tap. Straight to Butters, who releases Lockie Jones, and now surging up the corridor, Christian Moraes. Didn't spot a target in the 50, so kicks for a paddock in the territory. Georgiades buffeted off it. Sydney take possession. Chad Warner sidesteps a tackle. Cunningham just pushed as he kicked it. Impacted the delivery. Bounces to the line. And deep to boundary throw-in. I reckon the pressure was what got him. I don't think it was insufficient intent, and the umpire has agreed.
I agree with you, but they've been pinging those every single game this year.
I better not comment after last week. It's only the first quarter.
Boundary throw-in. Brodie Grundy just grabbed it out of the ruck, then kicked it forward. Francis gathered. Not sure how he got rid of that, but it wasn't a throw. Campbell gathered. He just rode the tackle of Zerk Thatcher. Gets it off to Chad Warner. A low drop punt towards goal, but dribbles away to the right. Right of that right-hand goalpost. Another minor score to the Swans. They're putting on so much pressure here, but not quite capitalising on the scoreboard. They're 1-3-9. Port 1 behind, 13 minutes gone.
And they're winning
quarter.
all their contests. They're just going a little bit harder than Port Adelaide at the moment.
Josh Sin was targeting Moraes at right half back, and he's collected in the process. They're not happy about it. Coming in late. It was just a careless one there.
I don't think it was intentional. I just think both contests, and he was unfortunate, wasn't it, too, that Moraes was already in the air when he hit him.
Francis just flung his body across and almost tunnelled him. So free kick to Port Adelaide, and Moraes will look for the defensive switch. Through the arc he goes to Sin. Now to the eastern side, Horn Francis with the son behind him. Shares it with the milestone man, Jace Burgoyne. The father-son, who was picked 60 back in 2021, certainly performed better than that. His kick towards Bergman. Wheels around. Short pass through centre wing. Hits up Richards. Dishes it off. Mead loops it over the top to Powell-Pepper. Here's the ball movement we saw against the Demons, and they'll cap it off. Powell-Pepper lowers the eyes and drops it into Georgiades on a wide lead. He marks 30 out, close to the boundary line, left forward pocket.
Well, that's been their game style over the last 2 weeks, is moving the ball by foot. You said earlier, Jamo, they were using the over handballing, finally getting some marking and kicking and uncontested marks, and that's the beautiful ball movement that we've seen from Port Adelaide the last couple of weeks. Big change in their game since the bye.
Kick to handball ratio in their first 11 games was 1.28. Last 2 weeks, 1.55. So big change in their ball movement.
Well, it's 1 for 1 at the minute.
Mitch Georgiades, fresh off 7 on a tight angle. Can't make it work. Through for a minor score on the right-hand side. Sydney's lead down to 7 points. The Power 2 behinds. And the visitors 1-3-9 as we get closing on time on in the first term.
Wasting no time. Here's the Swan skipper Mills. Gets it to McInerney. Marks at left half back. Goes short. Finding Sheldrick.
Love his left foot. I was watching him in the warm-up. Low and hard.
And that's what he does, Jamo. Taken on the half volley was Hayward, centre wing to Jordan, back to Sheldrick. Goes on the left foot again. This is short and high. Up towards Radaglia. He brings it down to the front of the contest, and Hayward has Richards for company. He's tackled out over the boundary line, and we'll have a throw-in just forward of the Swannies bench. They lead it by 7 points. A bit over halfway through this first term.
Got 6 left-footers in this team, Sydney.
Pretty good ball users as well. Tossed in. McLean down. Bouncing footy. Sheldrick waited and was crunched with a spearing tackle from Drew. Got a handball out though. Jordan looked for the 1-2 with McInerney. Didn't come back. Butters rips it away. Handball's a hot one. Horne-Francis makes it work. Turned into trouble and bounced off of Hayward. Kick is very good. Up to centre wing to Powell-Pepper. Through the broadcast side they go. Drew for a casual jog. Spots Liddy and hits him. 45 out. Slight angle to the right. The mid-season draftees' first opportunity in front of goal.
It was a really smart kick there by Willem Drew. He just held on it, took a bounce. Willie Rioli, Georgiades were coming to the fat side as he's played on.
Handed it to Rosie, then kicks wide to Maraes, and this is a worse angle and further away. Manny Liddy trying to do the unselfish thing as the new arrival. Not sure it was the go. Maraes now just has to place it into the right forward pocket, 2-on-2 there, and a big fist comes from McLean, and that was a bit anticlimactic after all that. Boundary throw in right forward pocket, 10 out. On the text line, Wes and Wirrabee says Papley is a huge in for Sydney. Here's the spark the Swans need. They're currently up by 7.
Wes from Wirrabee.
Rings well, doesn't it?
Short throw in, and sweet. Just ran through, cleaned up his opponent, but it was cleared cleverly there out of defence by Goulden, and then punched out over the boundary line by Zirk Thatcher. So we'll have a throw in about 70 metres around from Port Adelaide's goal.
I was from Werribee.
Jamo from Janelle.
No, I was serious. I'm from Werribee.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, there you go. Boundary throw in. Sweet knocks it down. Gathered by McInerney though. Goes back to Goulden. Wants his left foot.
How good.
Chips the ball over the top perfectly to Hayden McLean, defensive side of centre wing for the Swans.
Love that we learn new things about you every week, Jamo. 20 years in.
7.5 years I lived at Werribee. I played for the Tigers, won my first premiership there.
McLean central kick.
Under 11s.
McInerney, then Mills. Riding shotgun is Cunningham. Low bullet pass to Sheldrick. Thrusts the handball forward to Papley. The Swans are in so much space. Just queuing up here. And they've moved it comfortably to the 50 to to Francis, who then gives it off to Chad Warner. Plays on quickly, hooking it around the body. Too much curl, and it bounces through for a minor score. So not a lot of pressure there from the Power, but the Swans don't make them pay. 8 points their lead. 18 played in the opening term on ABC Sport.
Well, they clearly come to play and play quick. That was a very fast ball mover. Just played on at all costs, and they had really good look on goal there, and just couldn't capitalise. But the Swans have clearly come to play with speed today.
So Farrell brings it in, looking for Horne-Francis. Drop the mark under pressure. Look at Goulden, this time on his right foot. His flat ball, though, is intercepted by Liddy. Goes short to Butters. This is possession number 9. He's had 8 handballs, so potentially could get his first kick here. He does. So this is a risky ball through the middle. Socked by McLean, gathered by Farrell. His handball ends up in the hands of Mead. Liddy getting busy. Short kick. Oh, nearly a big head clash between Sam Powell-Pepper and Willem Drew. They just a hospital ball between two teammates there from Liddy. And it was intercepted by Sydney. They get it out to Campbell on the wing. Back to Roberts in the centre square.
Powell-Pepper was slow to get up. He's up now.
Up to the corridor. McInerney heads to the broadcast wing to Mills. Just a couple of fancy attempts from Liddy haven't paid off. Kick to Grundy, 2 to beat, but he's the bigger body. Bounces off, gathers on, and kicks up towards Amati. Good delivery from Brodie Grundy, and Joel Amati takes it 20 out, slight angle to the left.
Not quite sure what Port Adelaide are trying to do defensively at the moment. There's been a couple of times where Sydney have gone through the middle of the ground, consecutive handballs, disposals, and been able to do it easy. That time, they've transitioned out to the western side of the ground, going to the northern end. Brodie Grundy had all the time. 2 Port Adelaide players went to ground, and here they are having a shot.
Joel Amati kicked 9 against the Crows here last year. Back from suspension. This is a casual kick that he's missed to the left. Of a couple of steps, didn't give it any power and has put it wayward. Sydney 1-5-11 to Port's 2 behinds.
Burton brings it out back in looking for Bergman. Gathered nicely by Heaney, and a good strong tackle from the young gun Marays, who takes him out over the boundary line.
Certainly been all Sydney this quarter, hasn't it, too? Like, really, if it had been 3 or 4 or 5 goals.
Might be left to rue it, Jamo.
So,
total dominance so far, 11 inside 50s to 5. 6 scoring shots to 2. Boundary thrown. Visentini gets a hand on it towards Drew. His squib kick forward to Powell-Pepper. Couldn't quite gather. Was pulled off it. Maybe didn't have it. The handball goes back to Mills. He was clean. Got it to Rampy. Back to Papley, who genuinely kicks it 50 metres back to centre half back to find Lewis Melican. He brings it back towards Members' side of the ground through McCartan. And the skipper, Callum Mills, he's got a defensive side of the logo in front of the power bench.
Still got 4.5 minutes remaining in this quarter.
Mills faked going long, then pulled his kick towards Heaney, but it was well read by Bergman, or was it? Chop of the arms. Free kick. Isaac Heaney takes it. Places the forward kick to the presenting Grundy. He's at left half forward. Heaney buffets Bergman into Grundy and then receives the handball. Gives it to Sheldrick under pressure into the 50. Rising with Zerk Thatcher. Got a hand in. Tapped it down to Rowbottom. Papley on return. Opens the angle. Curls it with not enough power. And marked on the goal line by Zerk Thatcher. He'll steer it towards the scoreboard pocket to Burgoyne. Sydney's lead is 9 points. Port Adelaide have just the 2 behinds. Time on in the opening term.
12 inside 50s to Sydney. I think already Aliir is significant out in the role that he plays.
I was just about to say, Port just can't even get in their front half. Sydney are all over them at the moment.
Burne-Jones went to Rosie, who got it to Bergman. He's about 30 metres from the Swans goal. So just chipping it around here, Port. Goes to Sinnott, left half back. Not much movement going on. The umpire asked him to play on, so he runs around on the left, and his kick was looking for Liddy, but it just didn't have enough on it. Intercepted by Chad Warner. He's got the footy 75 metres from the Swans goal.
99 games today.
Goes inside the forward 50 again. Flying over the top was Amati. Bergman fumbled. Very rare from him. McInerney jumped on top of the ball. Bergman tackled. Then Zerk Thatcher dived on it, so we'll have a ball up just 20 metres out from the Swans goal. There's still plenty of time, 3 minutes left in this first term.
Story of the day, Port Adelaide in defensive 50, leaving the footy behind. Grundy wins it down. Goulden tried a quick kick, but it ricochets off Ratugolea. Rolls over the boundary line. Convinced we're the number 1 station in Wirrabee, Jammo. We've got a couple of texts now. Mick's messaged in, says South Melbourne will get the job done. Love that from Mick. Laurel and Rushworth says, still with ABC footy as I am every weekend, but I'm still sulking about the Cats' loss last night.
They were disappointing, weren't they? Although Brisbane were outstanding, weren't they?
Yeah. We said this a couple of weeks ago in the Adelaide-Brisbane game that the Lions hadn't quite flexed their muscles yet, and feels like they've finally arrived. Free kick to Port Adelaide and defensive 50 out of the ruck contest. Vicentini against Grundy.
How good was Cam Rayner last night?
It's so powerful, isn't he?
Has those in his back pocket, doesn't he? Every month or so.
That's what happens when you kick straight the Lions. It's basically cost them a couple of games this season.
Vicentini to Burton, and then Liddy just kicked it straight to a pack of Swans. Off hands, Mills a little 1-2 with Francis. Plenty of time to drop it in. Kick towards Heaney. Desperate effort from Sim to get a fist in. And he knocks it over the boundary line. So Port again just struggling to get away from these repeat defensive entries.
Well, 14 inside 50s for Sydney and only 5 for Port. 90% of this quarter has been played in Sydney's forward half.
Just watch Josh Sin. I think he might have rolled an ankle in that contest.
Grundy forced Vicentini under the ball and ran over it himself. Bergman, bit of tunnel ball towards Burgoyne. Vicentini handball back to Radigalia, to Butters in the right back pocket. He loves those kicks across his body, but it doesn't work this time because Mills is in the right spot. He runs to 50, the skipper. Unloads from 50, but just away to the right. So many opportunities for the Swans. They're 1-6-12. Port Adelaide 2 behind, 10-point margin. 25.5 minutes gone in this first quarter. They have dominated inside 50s, 15-5.
They are lucky to be in this game, Port Adelaide.
Connor Rosie with just his 4th touch of the term. Kicks to the eastern side where again Sydney have the outnumber. Good effort from Burgoyne to paddle it back towards Liddy. Picked up and given to Drew. Little 1-2 with Burgoyne. Going for a run but not a lot ahead. Loops it back to Burgoyne in front of the Williams stand. Finally has an option. Kicks towards Pal Pepper. But his opponent's Melican. He's got a good metre on him. Defensive intercept for the Swans. He'll chip it to Chad Warner and now Brodie Grundy at centre half back. Sydney by 10.
Handball to Warner. Over the top to Campbell. One of those left footers, Jamo, goes short to Haywood. Defensive side of the logo.
1 minute remaining. Still enough time for both teams to score.
So Haywood kicks towards left half forward. McLean coming out in the contest, but Zerk Thatcher gets a nice hand in there. Punches it out over the boundary line. We'll have a throw in 85 metres around from the Swans' goal. Leading by 10 points. But 7 shots to 2 in this first quarter. Might come back to bite them because Port Adelaide have not been near it.
Tossed in. Vicentini entangled with Grundy. The latter wins it down for Sydney. Sharked by Sin. Hands it to Moraes and he thumps it out of there. High wobbler through centre wing. Committing early was McCartan. Out the back, good body work from Wicks, who took on Georgiades. His kick central. Port have some numbers. Butters did well to get it to Rosie. The skipper arcs back towards the benches. Sin had to be pinpoint. Was to Drews. Collected. Crowd wanted 50 against Goulden. They're not going to get it. Willem Drew, right on the logo. Clock running down. Kicks towards the 50. Porter yet to kick a goal. Georgiades flies, couldn't take it. Melican got a handball out. Tumbling kick up towards McInerney. Barges through, shot a handball out. And Port will remain goalless at quarter time. Sydney's stars are back, and so is their slick footy. They just need to convert in front of goal. 1-6-12, Sydney. Port Adelaide 2 behinds. Justin McInerney with the only major of the term in the opening minute in what ended up being a pretty lengthy quarter here at the Adelaide Oval. It is great to have your company for the middle fixture of this trifecta. Earlier, North Melbourne defeated Carlton by 11 points. And still to come, Collingwood and St Kilda at Docklands. Nick's texted in and says, sitting by the fire with a glass of red in the Barossa. I'm very envious of you, Nick, as is Rod Jamieson.
I did that last weekend.
And says, hope the Saints can cause an upset later. Well, seems to be the trend of the day. North knocking off the Blues and Sydney currently on top here at the Adelaide Oval. Can they maintain it, though, given it's just a 10-point game? We'll find out more on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app. This is Saturday Footy on ABC Sport.
Ben Cameron and Corbin Middlemash from ABC Sport here.
Alongside Paul Roos, Brett Delidio and Poppy Penny, we bring you all the latest AFL news from both on and off the field on the ABC AFL Daily podcast.
You can hear it all on the ABC Listen app.
Up to steady and pull the trigger!
Get ABC AFL Daily Podcast. It's your daily footy conversation. Find it on the ABC Listen app. This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
It's picked up by Radaglia under pressure. He handles a turnover straight to McInerney, who bounces, and he gives it to Kane Farrell as well. Justin McInerney strikes, and Sydney's on the board in the opening minute.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the AFL.
On your radio.
ABC Sport Digital.
And on the ABC Listen app.
You didn't hear that wrong. Just the one goal in the opening quarter, and it came in the first minute through Justin McInerney. Although Sydney had plenty of dominance against Port Adelaide. On a glorious day here in Adelaide, the weather isn't playing a factor, just inaccuracy and dominant forward press from Sydney. 1-6-12 the Swans to Port Adelaide's 2 behinds. Feels like a now or never game for both these sides as they try to rebound from slow starts in season 2025. Port on a 2-game win streak, Sydney off the bye. And it feels like the grand finalists are starting to return to some of their best form with some major inclusions. Errol Goulden, Tom Papley, Joel Amartey back out there for them today. Rod Jamieson and Dean Brogan are your experts on ABC Sport, and they grinded their way through a difficult opening term.
Oh, they did. Sydney were great. They just came out and really put it to Port Adelaide where it is. You touched on a ground where they do struggle a little bit, but just, I guess the bigger picture, this is the forward half of each team. Like, it's plus 29 in favour of Sydney in terms of disposals. They contested 26-3. So when it's in Sydney's forward line, that's where they're winning the contested footy. 3 only for Port because it's hardly ever been in there. It's just not getting down to that end at all. So significant in terms of the way that Sydney have gone about it. Inside 50s, 15-7. Their ground ball gets 29-19. Contested plus 11 in favour. So they're just at it, Brogues. And you touched on it. They are jumpy and fumbly Port Adelaide pretty much for that entire first quarter.
Yeah, Sydney have come to play, no doubt. And, Port looked a little bit rattled. And just touching on, the forward half game, as we call it, was all played in Sydney's forward half. But I'm looking mid v mid, and Sydney are like plus 29 in that mid zone in contested ball and winning those ground balls. They're absolutely slaughtering Port Adelaide at the moment, and they are very lucky that Sydney didn't kick straight. Otherwise, this game could be, well, not over, but it could be in a bit of trouble. But got to hand it to Sydney. They have come to play today. What they're doing really well too is when they have the ball, they are going. They are switching the ball. They are changing angles, and handball receives. They are going as quick as anything, and it's giving them good looks inside 50. They just haven't been able to convert, which might come back to hurt them, but their intentions are pretty clear today. They are playing quick. Their pressure is through the roof, and they have Port Adelaide on the back foot at the moment.
The area of concern for me, as always, this year particularly for Port Adelaide, is they've only got Georgiades, who kicked 7-4 last week against Melbourne. Their top 5 goal scorers aren't kicking a lot of goals. That's of real concern, and already they've got Sweet in there. They've gone to Georgiades. When they've gone wide, or haven't been able to hit them as targets. They just don't have the ability. So if you've got a good defensive team, which at the moment Sydney in that first quarter are, Port Adelaide are really going to struggle. You say the spread, but the spread is really, really limited and not impactful enough on the scoreboard. And after the first quarter, they've only kicked 2 behinds.
The 11th time in Port Adelaide's history that it's scored less than 3 points in an opening term. And also the last time they were held goalless in an opening quarter was round 4 of 2023 against Sydney. The last one in terms of the funny little stats. Last year, round 21, Port Adelaide destroyed Sydney here by 112 points. The Swans' first goal came at the 23-minute mark of the second quarter. Could they play a bit of role reversal and hand Port Adelaide a really tough afternoon?
Well, I think Port Adelaide's Achilles heel. I've had a look into their forward craft and into their goal kicking. They've lost 7 games this year. All 7 games they've lost where they've kicked more behinds than they have goals. They've won 1 game where they've kicked more behinds than goals this year. Last year, they had 12 games where they kicked more behinds, and they only lost 3, plus the games that they won under 1 goal. So they get enough football, they get it in. At the moment, they're not kicking enough scores.
Hard when you've only got 1 tall forward as well. Mitch Georgiades had 7 last week, and I think there were many doubts if he could emulate that across consecutive games. But it's all Sydney right now. They lead by 10 points, and Callum Mills with 10 touches. The skipper returning for his 10th game in 3 years.
Butters with 11, but he's had 9 handballs, so hasn't really moved the football forward.
Back underway, Saturday footy on ABC Sport. Vicentini wins it down. Picked off by Sheldrick, tackled by the ruckman. Dropped the footy. Butters picks it up. Goes for a run to the eastern side. Jordan's tracking him. Got away. Hands it off to Rosie. Now Burton lowers and drills it towards Rioli. Diving spoil from Cunningham. Picked up by Powpepper though. Port Adelaide at right half forward. Burn-Jones now screws the kick back into Butters, who marks diving to his left. 35 out. 45-degree angle to the right.
Just interesting, Connor Rose has been playing half-back for, most of the year and is starting on ball today. I think with Lockie Jones back in the side, it's pushed Rosie on ball. So, Rosie's back playing in the midfield today.
Ollie Wine's out as well.
True.
Goal scoring not foreign for Zach Butters with 67 in his career, but he's yet to kick a major this campaign.
Is that surprising?
As a running midfielder,
yeah.
Usually gets flying shots on goal, doesn't float forward too often to take marks like this. Starts in front of the Wanganeen stand. Butters looks to thread the needle. Perfect kick. Maybe you should play there more often, Jamo. Butters is on the board, as are Port Adelaide. Comes at the first minute of the second term. 1-2-8 to the Swans, 1-6-12. And just like that, we've got a 4-point game. Saturday footy on ABC Sport. Aaron Bryans and Tom Wilson calling the action with premiership players Rod Jamieson and Dean Brogan.
Well, to say they needed that is an understatement. They started that quarter really well, won the clearance, won a couple of scrap balls, and then Butters started in the centre square and just ran hard forward and found himself with an uncontested mark. And, you don't see him have a lot of set shots, but, much needed goal from a superstar.
From a significant midfielder, if you used like Chad Warner, he's kicked 14 goals. Heaney's kicked 15. You're talking about Butters in that quality, and that's his first goal for the year at round 15. It is surprising.
So we had a goal in the first minute in the first quarter. That was the only goal of the first quarter. We got a goal in the first minute of the second, and it's Port Adelaide's first of the afternoon. The hit out goes towards Port Adelaide's direction, but the Swans have it at centre half back through Mills. Handballed over the top to Heaney, who might be hurt in the middle of the ground. He was on his hands and knees when he received that handball. Good pressure there from Jordan. Turned it over. Blakey runs inside the forward 50. Unloads with the left foot and kicks it. Quick bounce back from the Swans. The great ball user in Blakey. They go to 2-6-18. Port Adelaide 1-2-8, 2.5 minutes gone, second term.
The Lizard.
Well, earlier in the year when they played each other, he missed about 5 of them running into goals, so he would be that relieved he's at the scoreboard. But, God, they look sharp and quick today, don't they?
You got Isaac Heaney might have copped one in where you don't want to cop
below
one.
The belt, I reckon. He was pretty winded.
And he was doubled up and got a handball.
He got a handball when he didn't want it.
He'll float forward now to start this centre bounce. But Sydney back up by 10.
Geez, they're sharp today. They look really sharp, Sydney.
It's when they're at their dangerous, isn't it, too? On most sides are, but particularly Sydney, those. And Blakey is the one coming off the halfback line that does bounce and cover a lot of ground forward.
Pretty decent month ahead as well. The Dogs, the Dockers, the Saints and the Roos. So Sydney certainly aren't out of this campaign yet. Grundy wins it down. Rosie there for the power. Hands it to Butters, then Liddy. Quickly jammed a kick. Bounces towards Horn Francis. Couldn't take it. Rowbottom rips it away. Hands it off towards Mills. And now McInerney for the Swans. Moves it to the eastern side. Mark taken by Roberts. Casual kick towards McInerney on the instep. He's in the centre square. Goes for a run. Butters was on the mark and didn't stay there.
Oh, ugly.
Kick was a shank. Tumbles towards the 50. Radagalier was very crisp. Gathers and gives it to Zerk Thatcher, and now across to Sweet at right half back. The ruckman with a great bullet pass to the logo. Porter moving this with pace. Butters, little 1-2 with Rosie. Into the 50. Long entry, 30 from home. Vicentini couldn't take it. Mitch Georgiades plays crummer but is tackled. Dropped the footy. Horn Francis, the birthday boy, tumbles it from 30. Port Adelaide, bang bang in the second term. 4-point game. 2-2-14 the power. The Swans 2-6-18. Saturday footy on ABC Sport with Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson.
Yeah, just the way they are. I think at the moment they're trying to play a game that they want to play, Port Adelaide, but it's slowly coming in this second quarter. They were unable to manufacture it in the first, but they've been a little cleaner and significant. Zach Butters in this second quarter just racking it up. He's already had 5.
Well, it all started from Zach Butters. He took a mark and played on immediately and caught the Sydney defence out of whack. And that's how you're going to get through and kick easier goals, is you mark and you play on and you go. And that's what Zach Butters does really well. And as we know, the ball hits the ground on the forward line. Jason Horton-Francis is around. He's going to pick it up and kick goal, isn't he? He's a superstar.
No issues with that shoulder so far. Back in the middle of the ground, Rosie gets a squib kick towards centre half forward. Clean bowls everyone. Burn-Jones as well, but Mills gathered. Gets it to Roberts. Snapped around the body. Through the hands of Sweet. Working hard was Drew for the power. Gathered did Grundy. Did the 360. Handballed it forward. Sin was clean though. Handballs to Sweet. He dribbles a ball towards Rioli. He was beaten by Cunningham. Good tackle though by Burgoyne. Rioli goes again. Can he keep it inside the paint of the boundary line? He does. Sam Palpepper overruns it, but then gathers and goes to Rioli. He goes inside the forward 50. Visentini took a strong mark, was pushed in the process. May have won a free kick, but he marks in the right forward pocket.
Well, there's questions about playing the 2 rucks, and Port Adelaide have done this for the second week in a row. And if the big fellas can go down and take marks like that and hit the scoreboard, might be something they leave in for some time.
Sweet's actually moving pretty well around the ground today and using it good too. Visentini comes in and was a tight angle. Pushed it away to the right-hand side. So minus score, 2-3-15, Port Adelaide, Sydney, 2-6-18. 6.5 minutes gone. It's Saturday footy for ABC Sport at Adelaide Oval.
Sam Palpepper's second effort out the other side, wasn't it? 2 won the footy back for Port Adelaide.
Blakey plays on from the defensive goal square. Little 1-2 with Mills. Gets through the walls, closing on him. Kicks up towards the broadcast wing. Lockie Jones diving back, got a hand in, knocked it down. And Sin surging by. Kick up to left half forward. Planting his feet was Burn-Jones waiting for it. Blakey gets across and knocks it towards the boundary line. Pete and Ballarat's not happy that I talked about the Swans' decent run ahead and included the Western Bulldogs in that. So that's the upcoming Friday night game, and it's at the SCG. So if Sydney play the brand of footy we saw in the first quarter at home, it doesn't look as difficult as it could have a couple of weeks ago.
Well, you're almost talking. They've lost 8 and they've lost 4 of them at the SCG.
Tossed in, Grundy down to Heaney. Long kick hitting Hope. It's bouncing its way into the 50. Bergman's backtracking, as are a couple of Swans. He's bowled over by Aaron Francis. Rolled the kick up towards the broadcast wing. Picked up by Campbell. Tackle, gave it away. Bergman for Port Adelaide shoots a handball to Farrell. Tumbles one around the body up to the logo. Grundy's there, edged away by Sweet. Drew over around the footy, trying to out-pressure Jordan. Diving on top is Grundy. Sweet piles on, holding the ball. He starfished on top of that, Brodie Grundy. Free kick to Port Adelaide. How's the 2 taggers as well? Drew and Jordan running with each other. Sweet's kick, Dyer on the 45. It was low, nearly cut off by Matt Roberts. Skidded through towards Richards. He gave it away. Now Roberts wrapped up in a tackle by Farrell. Ball up centre square. The Swans by 3.
It's a risky ball, but if it pays off that kick inside, it really does open it up for Port Adelaide. Ruck contest. Grundy knocks it down. Clean with Sheldrick to Heaney. He's recovered. Kicks up towards centre half forward. Strong grab from Francis. He's got a runner in Warner. Feigned the handball. So he's about 60 out is Francis. Kicks towards Amati in the pocket. Makes it. So he marks it left half forward. Probably 45 metres out. Probably takes a kick from 50.
Amati had all the time in the world to get there. There was no defender on him, but he also had Hayward, who was probably 10 metres ahead of his immediate opponent, running to the square. Sloppy defensive work, Port Adelaide.
So the Swans lead it by 3. He's had a shot earlier, much easier than this that he missed. So Amati walks to the paint of 50. Kicks from there. Sets sail for home. And there's no Swans back there. So Radigalia looks like he's marked that on the behind line. And we're going to have another review at this end.
They like being involved in the game, don't they, Tom?
They certainly do.
High score as a mark. Please confirm.
I just want to confirm this one. This one might be a little bit tighter than we think, but it feels like he's taken that on the paint and then taking it over.
Cheese Roden would be all over this.
He hardly reviews, I think I saw somewhere, David Roden.
He's good.
Something like 4 in the last
Review complete. Looking at these
years,
angles,
David
we
Roden.
can see
It's
the ball's
amazing.
controlled before crossing the back of the behind line. Decision on the scoreboard.
Cheese would have said, play on. Big smile on his face too.
So Radigalia is going to be paid the mark. Good defensive grab.
The upside is they got it right.
Sydney's lead remains at 3. Saturday footy on ABC Sport. Radigalia, high bang up towards left half back. Melican front position. Georgiades thought he claimed it over the top. Wasn't paid. Snatched away. Braden Campbell tightened the pocket on the left boot. It's across the face and through for a minor score. Now Sydney's lead is up to 4. We played 10 minutes in the second term on ABC Sport.
So Farrell has the footy. His defensive goal square.
Probably look at the score and go, both defences have been outstanding, but it's actually been the poor kicking from Sydney, really.
Farrell goes long. Grundy fists it towards Heaney, who was super clean, but then he slipped. Mead over the top of him. Rioli's worked his way to left half back for Port Adelaide. Got a clever handball to Drew. Mead now. Powell-Pepper marks on the logo, plays on immediately. Going long towards Burn-Jones. He's behind his opponent in Mills, who was able to get it towards Sheldrick. Heaney's worked his way back to centre half back. Drew went a fresh air ball with the soccer off the ground, but then lays a tackle. They've got it inside their forward 50. Wrapped up there was McCartan. We'll have a ball up 45 metres from the Power goal.
So Drew next to Heaney. Jordan's watching Connor Rozee very tightly. Grundy taps it down. Blakey tried to tow it forward. Powell-Pepper's there. He's wrapped up by Melican and escorted over the boundary line. So Connor Rozee with the 10 touches so far, with Jordan with him. Meanwhile, Isaac Heaney has 14. Callum Mills, I mentioned it briefly before, but 10th game in 3 years. Rotator cuff injury, suspension, plantar fascia. He had 25 before the bye against Richmond. He's up to 15 already in this second term in terms of touches. Grundy takes it out of the ruck. Tried to get it towards Jordan. Yeah. Bounced off the contact of Lockie Jones. Misses Mills. Did well on the second bite. Picks it up. Hands it to Sheldrick. Sweeping handball to the centre circle. And the Swans have the overlap. Papley kicks in the path of Campbell. Backtracks and then hands it back to the returning superstar. Papley spotted an empty goal square and went for glory. When he had a Marty available, it tumbles over the line left forward pocket and it'll be a boundary throw-in.
Yeah, needed to do better there. It was like 4-on-1 going inside 50, and that's what happens when you've missed probably 8 to 10 weeks of footy. You touch and your game sense just not quite there.
Dean Cox on the boundary, normally coaches from the box.
Grundy knocks it down to Papley. He was tackled when he kicked it though. Handball back to that same contest. The bottom is Sin, so we'll have another ball up about 25 metres from the Swannies' goal.
Set up here, Sydney.
Looks like there's a blood rule here.
Willem Drew.
Willem Drew, he's coming from the defensive side, and Papley's limping out of this contest.
Josh Money on the boundary.
Just watching him.
Thoughts are with you, Josh. We know you're listening in. He's crook today, so Jamo's just throwing you under the bus there.
Geez, that's not good from Papley.
Coming back from a fractured heel, and he's hobbling hard as he makes his way to the bench.
So a flying shot from the contest. They didn't wait for Papley to get off the ground there. Sheldrick with a left foot kick away to the left. Minus score. Sydney 2, 8-20. Port 2, 3, 15. 14 minutes gone second quarter for ABC Sport.
Recover quickly, Josh.
Storylines are plenty. Tom Papley off to the bench. Sydney's inaccuracy. Port Adelaide hanging on. 5 points the deficit. Kick to the eastern side. Radigalia. 2 to beat, but tore them both comfortably. Sticks both mitts up. Clunks it in front of the Williams stand. Radigalia looks for an option. Drives it hard and long. Floating to the front position, Vicentini. Couple of hands, knock it down. Powell-Pepper hands it off to Horn Francis. Turned one way, then into trouble at the other. Hayward crunches him holding the ball. Free kick to Sydney. Tried the fancy footwork away from trouble. And turned into even more dire situations. Central kick had to be precise. Work to Mills. Here comes the Lizard. Blakey, full stride, drives it to Amati. What a run. Silver service. And Joel Amati takes it straight in front. 35 out.
Yeah, off the half-back line today. He's up and about, isn't he, too? Just his run and carry. Somehow King Hinkley's men have to negate that. Amati presenting well. Jason Horne-Francis only had the 4 disposals.
Joel Amati. Missed plenty of games this year through injury and suspension. Comes in. You can hear the crowd roar as he sprays it left. Another minus score for Joel Amati and for Sydney. 2-9-21 to Port Adelaide's 2-3-15. 15 played second term on ABC Sport.
You just got to kick those goals. You're on the road. You've got all the play. You've got to kick those goals.
So Farrell to Burton and then a drop mark from Rosie, but they work their way through Moraes and Mead. He takes one bounce, kicks it long inside the forward 50, making Georgiades work for it. Oh, he nearly kept that in the pocket. Was going to run around for a snap, but instead we'll have a boundary throw in. So -6 is what Port Adelaide is behind the Sydney score. 2-9-21, Port Adelaide 2-3-15. Halfway through this second quarter. An opportunity here to make the Swans pay for their poor goal kicking. Rioli tapped it towards Powell Pepper. He goes the don't argue. Kicks an underground ball towards Jason Horne-Francis. He's wrapped up immediately by Melican. Worried out of it was Mead. Rowbottom kick towards the boundary line. Amati and Sin. Amati gathered, kept it in. Handballed in front of his teammate. Running onto that was Wicks. Over the top of the ball. Amati, the big fella, goes again. Handballs off to McInerney. Kicks towards Campbell. He's got a player running into the open 50. It's Haywood. He takes a mark. Takes his time and he goes a dribbler. Oh, he just dribbled back to the left at the right time. The leg spinner at Adelaide Oval. I reckon Cox would have run out in the field and shaken him. Maybe not punched him, but shaken him for that. That was risky, bro.
They made that as hard as anything. But look, Sydney are absolutely dominating this game. Really, they should be up by 5 or 6 goals. They are winning all the contests. They are going quick. They are shifting the ball. They are playing on it at all costs. Port Adelaide are in trouble, if you ask me. They are on the back foot, and Sydney are all over them.
They're lucky it's a 2-goal margin.
They just can't win it up forward at the moment. Darcy Byrne-Jones is quarter 1. You got Rioli with the 2. Horne-Francis has only had the 2.
Yeah.
There's no one up forward that's winning the football.
And just can't keep it in there, Gemmo. Can't lock it in and just slow it down and get some time in the forward half.
The dribble kick from Will Hayward, hard and mouth stuff for Dean Cox, but it goes through. Sydney by 12 and they get the clearance. James Jordan thumps it off a step. Works favourably for Hayward. Could he go again? This time the kick is pure. Full stride from 45. Will Hayward doubles up in a matter of minutes. Sydney's up by 3 goals. 4-9-33. Port Adelaide 2-3-15. Approaching time on in the second term. Saturday footy on ABC Sport with premiership players Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson.
Well, the alarm bells will be ringing off in the coaches' boxes now because they are contested possession 63 contested possession, Port 46. Uncontested possession, Sydney plus 12, plus 13 in ground balls, 25-12 inside 50s. They've had the 30 more possessions. It's starting to look a bit ugly for Port Adelaide. The game is by no means over, but Sydney are playing at a very high level at the moment.
Well, Grundy's all over him in the ruck with the hit-outs to advantage, and then first possessions. Heaney, Grundy, Sheldrick, Jordan, Goulden, and then Mead comes into it. So Port Adelaide can't win it around the contest either.
So, shot on the bench, Miles Bergman is clutching his shoulder, which is not a good sign for Port Adelaide. We'll update you with that. From the centre throw-up, Chad Warner with the clearance. Jones was in front of Haywood, couldn't quite complete the mark. Now he's got Rowbottom and company, who tackles him hard. On top of the footy, Jones, he could be in trouble. Gets the ball out just in time. Burgoyne goes by hand. Quick kick forward by Burton. Up towards Liddy and Powell Pepper. Sitting under it was a Swans player who got crunched. He's still down. Liddy goes towards 50. Not to the advantage of Sweet. But he goes again. He has some help from Burne-Jones, but cleverly done by Melican, who got it to Roberts, who clears the ball to Campbell, who marks defensive side of centre wing.
He's a good first half of football, Campbell. He's finding some space.
Swans by 18. Campbell pick 5 in 2020. Feels like he's yet to really hit his straps as a senior footballer. Down the line, Regalia flies over the top of McLean. Almost lost his balance in the air as well, but managed to stick the mark.
He is seeing them like watermelons at the moment, isn't he? He's marking the ball as good as I've ever seen him play.
The best dressed Port Adelaide man, apparently, Aaron.
You've been reading the budget again. The footy record, Jamo.
The pocket profiles.
Radagalier swings it through defensive 50. So Zirk Thatcher off towards Farrell, then Lockie Jones, and now the kick up towards centre wing from Butters. Free kick on the ball drop as Powell Pepper's edged away by Mills. So right in front of the Bashir stand, a central kick was a little dicey. Farrell got there in time. Wants to play on as he arcs towards the broadcast wing. Looks to switch. Tracking it well was Francis. Got a hand in. Port have the numbers. Sin, a high ball against Sydney's pressure. And what a mark. Papley has launched himself back with a flight into Willem Drew. Heavy collision, and Drew is still held onto the footy. Just a great effort from both sides.
Thought Papley did it well without giving away a free, but Drew took the mark.
Drew into the 50. Kick, tried to get it towards Georgiades, who was edged off it. Melican floats across, takes the intercept. His kick's a little treacherous for Sydney, and it's cut off by Burgoyne. 1-on-1 on the paint of 50. He outmarks Errol Goulden, and the 50-gamer will get a set shot.
That's Lewis Melican. It's a poor kick. That's probably Sydney's worst exit out of defence. Kicking it well short.
Chase Burgoyne, the son of a gun, pulls his kick into the scoreboard pocket. Tall timber there. Heavy landing. Powell Pepper one way, Horn Francis the other. Car crash, and it's a heavy landing for the star midfielder. Horn Francis on his haunches. Ball rolls over the line.
He's not good. I reckon it's a head clash, that one.
Will be tossed back in, and he's going to stay out there for the moment. Sweet paddles it down in his direction and quickly tackled by Rampy, who falls into him. Ball up 15 out.
I think he's landed on his back and he's hit his head on the ground.
Certainly winded, Jamo. Still catching his breath.
Yep.
So Sweet knocks it towards Richard, who gathered quick handball to Burne-Jones, who was surely tackled without it. Play on, says the umpire. Then another big tackle inside the goal square. Heaney at the bottom. And we've got a trainer with Horn Francis just chatting to him. He's in the right forward pocket.
He was down on his haunches again while play was happening.
Sweet grabs it out of the ruck, tries to get a quick kick away. McLean knocked it out of his hands. Georgiades is in there. There's 4 Swans. McCartan's kick is smothered off the chest of Sweet and out over the boundary in the right forward pocket.
Horn Francis definitely has a busted lip, so there was some sort of head contact with Powell Pepper, but he's insisting he stays out there. Sydney by 18. Porter pressing. Time on in the second term on ABC Sport. Tossed in. Sweet down. Drew tries to paddle it across. Richards clean. Hands it to Horn Francis. 3 to beat. Couldn't squeeze a kick through. Towed out of there by Wicks. Straight towards Powell Pepper. Hands it to Burgoyne. Darting away from Hayward. An up and under kick. Floats in front of the scoreboard. Melican committed. Couldn't take it. And Powell Pepper's taken out Georgiades. He's a bulldozer against his own teammates. McCartan for Sydney. Clears it a hit and hope. Port have the wall set. Zirk Thatcher takes it at left half forward.
Now Powell Pepper's in a bit of strife. He's in the hands of the trainers.
What a friendly fire for the Power.
Red and white one, Sam.
Zirk Thatcher goes to the top of the goal square. McLean, his run was just bumped a little bit. Speaking of bumps, Burne-Jones cleaned up Roberts. Quick kick out of defence, though, from Mills. Somehow the Swans have the numbers, and Rowbottom takes a strong chest mark. They're forging forward, the Swans. Over the top towards Grundy. Marks centre wing.
They got some serious leg speed, Sydney, haven't they?
They've come to play, Jamo. Normally they've moved this pretty quickly, and Heaney was just able to push off Liddy.
It's a learning, isn't it?
What a play to play against in your second game. Heaney now goes inside the forward 50. He just wasn't in sync there with Aaron Francis. He's kicked it straight to Ratugolea and left half back for Port. Port trail by 18 points. 25 minutes gone in this second quarter.
Ratugolea sends it to the broadcast wing. Players launch into the air with a couple of fists out the back door. McCartan set upon, dropped the footy. Play continues. Sheldrick got a handball in traffic. Back to Wicks. Thumps it up to the arc. Floating across. Lockie Jones turned into trouble and wrapped up by McInerney. So Miles Bergman's been on the bench for a while now, clutching his shoulder. Reached out to Port Adelaide. He's about to come back on, so he's got the all clear to keep playing.
Who have you got the line to?
I've got my sources around the place, Jammer. Don't you worry.
You're supposed to call the game.
Brody Grundy, I can multitask. Taps it down to Papley. Swung in the tackle from Butters. Kicker hit and hope. It rolls towards Farrell. Wrapped up by Mills. Got it out. Richards to Lockie Jones. Here's the surge from Port. But Meads missed his target. Bergman now puts his head over it. Trying to beat a couple. Rowbottom wraps him up. They were away, Port Adelaide. And now it's a ball up close to Sydney's 50. They currently lead by 18, the Swans.
Ball up at centre half forward for Sydney. It's going to be a free kick plucked out here. Going the way of the Swans, holding on. Against Visentini.
Is that Ken Hinkley? Who are you texting?
Grundy goes inside the forward 50. Flying was Heaney. He's landed heavily. No free kick for a poor attempt at mark, and Port Adelaide are able to work it out by hand. Bergman doesn't have a lot to go to, so takes a bounce at right half back, kicks down the line. Roving was Richards. Smart work to get it to Horn Francis, now to Drew. He handballs again to Richards. He's going to be met by a tackle immediately. That was a hospital ball. Turnover. Rowbottom at the logo, outer side of the ground. Gets it to Goulden, kicking up towards McLean. Burton was brave, dropped the mark but gathered. Kicks it from centre half back. It's open here for Port Adelaide. If they can be clean today. Powell-Pepper out towards Horn Francis at right half forward.
Marks in front of the Wanganeen stand, lowers the eyes and ships it to Butters. Another mark inside 50 for the start mid. This is an even tighter angle than the one from earlier in the game. So he's close to the boundary line, 40 out.
Just that last kick from Sydney. Was it Errol Goulden that actually did that? Came out this side of the ground. It was just too far in front, and Ryan Burton was able to intercept. They just had to put it deeper into the forward 50. What about that kick?
Butters tried to kick central. It was nowhere near Willem Drew and bounces straight to Errol Goulden. Port Adelaide's miserable afternoon continues with their ball use. Here comes the counterpunch. Goulden to Papley. They weren't really expecting it, Sydney, so they didn't have anyone forward. He'll take his time, let Marty float forward and take the mark. 35 from home in the left forward pocket. Burton did his best to track him, but Joel Amati too quick and too good.
Well, I'm not sure what Zach Butters was doing there. He centred the ball. No one knew what he was doing, but where he put it was so dangerous. You turn the ball over in the middle of the 50, you're going to go. It's going to come back with interest, and Sydney's pace and skill set leads to a shot on goal. He needs to kick this, Amati. He needs to kick it.
Two behinds from his set shots so far. Amati crosses the paint of 50, kicks on line, and late to the right. Another blemish. Sydney by 19 points, closing in on half-time. But they've had all of the footy. 4-10-34 to Port's 2-3-15 on ABC Sport.
Well, Joel Amati's come back into the team. He's missed a fair bit of football, but even his run-up is actually just short. It's not very long in terms of how many steps he's taking. There's no real penetration on the kick, and he's kicked three behinds.
So Rosie brings it back in. He didn't really know where or what to do with it. So kick towards Visentini, rove by Rioli, who hits Jason Horn-Francis on the chest. He's got the ball centre wing, outer side of the ground, goes inboard to Butters. Butters plays on as he likes to do. He goes inside forward 50, or at least to the right half forward flank, and finds Burn-Jones. He quickly gets it around the corner to Powell-Pepper, who marks on the paint of the boundary line, 40 metres out, right in front of the scoreboard.
He's got 35 seconds remaining, so he can take all the 30, have a shot. Say Port Adelaide need this.
So 3-2 this quarter, Jamo.
It's be a tough kick. Not many goals kicked from this area. Eddie Betts' pocket.
Yeah.
Looks like he's holding it for the banana kick. In comes Pal Pepper, kicks the banana from Eddie's pocket, but away to the right-hand side. Too much bend. So Port Adelaide 2-4-16. Sydney 4-10-34. Dying seconds of the second quarter here at Adelaide Oval.
Snaps a run of 6 consecutive scoring shots for the Swans. Makes it a 3-goal game as we head into the major break. Playing on from the defensive goal square, Blakey will chip it wide to McCartan. And that'll about do us here at the Adelaide Oval. A half dominated by Sydney, but they haven't made the most of it. 4-10-34 to Port's 2-4-16. Goal scorers, 2 to Hayward, singles to Blakey, McInerney, Horne-Francis and Butters. Jason Horne-Francis remaining out there after a big clash with Sam Pepper in the scoreboard pocket that busted his lip. Miles Bergman had an issue with his shoulder but is continuing to play on as well. And Willem Drew just had a cut to his ear, which is why he missed a fair few minutes in that second quarter. Sydney lead by 18 points at the major break. Great to have you with us on ABC Sport as well for the middle game. Earlier, North Melbourne with a big win over Carlton by 11 points, their 4th of the season. Wild old game as well. 6 goals to nothing in the second term. And then Carlton came home flying with 5 unanswered goals but couldn't get over the line in the end. So big day for the Roos as they claim another important win as part of their rebuild, and Carlton's season slipping away, which was a huge opportunity for Port Adelaide. If they win this afternoon, they'll jump into 10th. At the moment, it's not looking great for them, albeit just a 3-goal deficit at the moment. On the text line, Neil and Coburg says goal umpires should get 3 reviews per match like cricket captains. We have had a few, I think 2 early so far here at the Adelaide Oval. Will from Traralgon's just finished umpiring Merbu North. Loving the call on the drive home. Another listener says, absolutely thrilling, exciting corridor football by the Swans. They have moved the ball very well up the spine and largely through Nick Blakey, who's been tremendous, fresh off his 34 touches against the Tigers. And Fran in Melbourne says, pleasure as always to listen. Hope Mitch Georgiades gets going. And Dean, I'm glad that you mentioned Tyson could not recall his name for the life of me. Good win by the Kangas and go the Pies. That's from Fran in Melbourne on 0437 774 774. Jamo Brogues, what'd you make of the half?
Well, all Sydney. 4 goals 10. The game really should be over, but it's not. And is this going to come back and hurt Sydney? 4 goals 10. It really, and they were all really gettable goals too. But what I've loved about Sydney is their intensity around the footy and ability to run and win the contest. And when ball in hand, they're shifting the ball, they're changing angles, and they're going quick. So it's a clear plan, obviously, what they brought today, and they're executing it to a T at the moment. And look, if you're Port Adelaide, it looks like they're in a bit of trouble, but they're only down by, what is it, 20 points. So they're still in the game, but geez, they've got some work to do. And you've touched on it, Jamo, like not enough of their midfielders are getting the ball. I mean, Zach Butters had 21 disposals, but 14 handballs. Like, you need Zach Butters kicking the football. They've got back into that game today of handballing when they should be out and hitting targets. But look, it's not over yet, but geez, Sydney are playing at a really high level today. And Port, they're just not having enough winners across the ground. Sydney just look way too dangerous and, probably should be up by 7 goals.
Well, the contested footy, Sydney are beating Port Adelaide up. The ground ball gets, they're plus 12. Inside 50 is reflective of that. Just around the football, Sydney are too strong. And outside the uncontested, it's 57-44 in favour of Port. I think Sydney are quite happy for them to just play with the football outside because they're not going forward. They're not getting it deep into their forward. And they're not covering the ground. So they're actually just zoning off and doing what they need to do. So Port Adelaide really need to change the way their approach. Looks like Horne-Francis is probably playing more forward than he is midfield.
He doesn't look right. No. He definitely doesn't look right today.
And a couple of big hits. So, I love the way that Sam Pepper, he's going to take one of his 2 teammates out the way he plays, and he's done that on 3 occasions today. But he just hits the footy. His second effort is really good, but there's not enough of it. I almost throw him in the middle.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest. Do you put him? You got to mix it up because they're not having any winners anywhere over the ground. I think they're going to have to flip the magnets around a little bit just to get some energy around the football because, like you just said, Jamo, the Swans just seems like they're playing with extra men. Like they've just got extra numbers at the contest, and when it gets to the outside, away they go. So, yeah, they might have to look at doing something like that, Jamo.
Well, Bergman started on Heaney. Heaney's got 16, played midfield and going forward. Bergman came off injured with his shoulder, so that's not working.
And they dropped it, he was running with Heaney everywhere, but now Bergman's playing at half back, so unless he's sore as well, but Heaney's off the chain now. He's got 16. Callum Mills has got 18. Like, they're good players are getting the football.
And I think their leg speed again for me. Like when you have a look at Campbell's leg speed, Warner, Blakey, Roberts, and even in that last one you called, Aaron, too, where Armady just ran out and he ran past Burton. He had to work 100 metres deep forward. He knew the football was going, and even him as that speed. So I think Port Adelaide, I keep harping on the Aliir omission through injury. That is significant back there because just at the moment, Radagaliya just can't hold down the role of how he wants to play or be that intercept marker or even come off his man to be able to go and be that third up to provide, which Aliir, when he's in there, does that.
And Port just can't get time in their forward half. It goes in, and like you said, Jomo, they can't win a 50-50 ball in there. It's going pinging straight back out. So it does make it hard to defend when it's coming out as quickly, quick from your back half. But look, this is why Sydney made the grand final last year. They are a good side. They haven't had their best 22. They've had a lot of injuries, but we're starting to see this is what they are capable of. And the guys that have missed a bit of footy, like Goulding and that, they look pretty sharp, And normally first up you are okay. But, they look really sharp today, and, Port have got some work to do.
Well, they've come off the bye, too. They beat Richmond. I watched a fair bit of that game. They weren't really...
It wasn't emphatic, was it?
No.
Even the margin was big. They only put on 80 points in a side they dominated in terms of the inside 50s.
Yeah. So, again, I just think Port Adelaide did 2-4, albeit that must be one of their smallest scores to half-time in the history of their club, but... 4-10 could have blown them out of the water and had a more of a significant margin. But for me, the options, I think we're going to have to realise the fact that teams are quite happy to go in wide at the moment in this day and age of football. So Port Adelaide continue to do that. That Butters kick inside was just, I don't know, he can kick across the body, but there was even no one even there.
It just sums up where they're at the moment. They're just a bit unsure about their system moving forward, and for me, they've got to start hitting deeper inside 50s so they can set their ground, their defence shape up, and just slow Sydney down a little bit, and just have some repeat stoppages in their forward line just to get a breath, because at the moment it's hectic pace and Port just can't go with them.
I think certainly McCartan's done a tremendous job on Georgiades, and he was the key focus last week with 7-4 against Melbourne. Today he's only had the 3 disposals, kicked 1 behind and the only 1 marked too, so he needs to step up and present.
Port's lowest half-time score since 2016. So it's been a while, actually, in terms of posting 16 points, 2-4-16 to 4-10-34.
And
Roach was still playing.
And it's a perfect night.
Yeah, you were still playing back then.
No, unfortunately I wasn't, Jamo. But it's a perfect night for football too. Like, to only have 2 goals 3... 2 goals 4 just shows they're off the pace today.
So down by 18 against Sydney at the moment, and the Stars are back and firing for the Swans. Mills with 18. Harold Goulden's got 11 as well. Good news about Tom Papley, who did limber off with a little bit of a foot issue, but is good to go, so he'll play in the second half as well. Yet to hit the scoreboard, but still the 10 touches behind alongside his name. So the Swans looking back to their best, and have on the live ladder currently leapfrogged Port Adelaide, so they'd be only 2 wins out of the 8 if they get the job done this afternoon. Still plenty of footy to play out. It's a 3-goal margin, so anything can happen from here. It is great to have you with us on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app. Collingwood and St Kilda still to come from the Docklands, but for now, at half-time, it's time to get the latest from the ABC newsroom.
ABC News with David Rowlands. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the military operation against Iran will continue until it eliminates what he calls the existential threat from Iran's nuclear program and arsenal of ballistic missiles. And the country's top general says the military is ready for a prolonged campaign. It comes as Iran says Israel has reportedly targeted a nuclear site near the city of Isfahan, but it says no nuclear leakage has been detected. The war between Israel and Iran erupted a week ago, with Israeli airstrikes on nuclear and military sites. killing top generals and nuclear scientists. A Washington-based Iranian human rights group says at least 657 people, including 263 civilians, have been killed, with more than 2,000 injured, while at least 24 people have been killed in Israel and hundreds injured there. The chair of the Productivity Commission says there's scope to reform the GST, but it could come at a cost to the federal budget. Treasurer Jim Chalmers has opened the door to potential changes on taxation policy as he looks to lift productivity in the economy. Danielle Wood says people might work less if they're facing higher income tax rates, resulting in less human capital in the economy. She says the federal budget could rely more on consumption taxes.
The challenge in doing that is you also have to, on equity grounds, I think, offer compensation to other groups, such as people on welfare payments. It's not something we've looked at specifically at the Productivity Commission, but I've done work in a past life that showed you can do such a package.
South Korea's trade minister is to visit the United States in the coming week. The country is currently facing a 10% US tariff and a 25% country-specific import duty, temporarily paused for 90 days. The visit will reportedly include discussions with US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer and the third round of bilateral technical discussions. It comes as neighbouring Japan's economy unexpectedly shrank in the first quarter amid sweeping US tariffs and domestic political woes. Charges against a man believed to have been released from immigration detention after a controversial High Court ruling are expected to be upgraded after a man he allegedly assaulted died in Melbourne today. Jason Katsaris has more.
A 62-year-old man died in hospital today after being allegedly assaulted at an intersection in Footscray last week. 43-year-old Friday Yukoju was arrested at the scene and originally charged with intentionally causing injury, but police now expect the charges to be changed before he appears in court in October. The ABC understands Mr Yukoju was released from immigration detention after a 2023 High Court ruling which deemed indefinite detention unlawful. A total of 140 detainees were released following the decision.
The family of a Warlpiri man who died in police custody last month are calling on the Prime Minister to withhold funding from the Northern Territory until the NT government addresses a deep crisis in its justice system. Robert Baird reports.
Kumanjai White died last month during an arrest by off-duty officers in Alice Springs, triggering protests across the country. In an open letter to the Prime Minister, his grandfather, Ned Jampajimpa Hargraves, cites Anthony Albanese's support for the Black Lives Matter movement, asking when will Aboriginal lives matter. He says rather than closing the gap, the Territory government instead tries to punish and brutalise Indigenous people. And he's called on Canberra to withhold funding from the NT until the government allows an independent investigation into Mr White's death, a request that Territory Police and the Chief Minister have repeatedly denied.
Today is the shortest day of the year, and to celebrate, thousands of people have stripped off in Hobart for a naked beach plunge. Jake Grant has the story.
As the sun rose over the waters of Sandy Bay's Long Beach this morning, the seas turned red, with thousands of early risers in red swimming caps shedding their clothes for the annual nude solstice swim. Around 3,000 participants signed up for this year's event, and many said the experience was great.
It was energising.
This is our second time. It is addictive. You just feel so alive after.
In the swim's first year in 2013, police advised participants they could be charged with public indecency. But the skinny dip has since become a well-attended tradition, rounding out the annual winter festival Dark Mofo.
In sport, North Melbourne has beaten Carlton by 11 points in their AFL match at the MCG. A run of 8 straight goals from the Kangaroos in the second and third quarters helped them secure their fourth win of the season, 13-6-84 to 10-13-73. This is ABC News.
Rugby Union's greatest tour. The British and Irish Lions are coming. 6 tour games, 3 massive tests, every moment live. Starts June 28 on ABC Sport.
On ABC Sport, you're listening to the 2025 AFL Premiership season.
Don't get better than this. On your radio,
Sport Digital,
and on the ABC Listen app.
Hello,
high-scoring affair here at the Adelaide Oval in this must-win clash between Port Adelaide and Sydney. The Swans are starting to look back to their best, but just very inaccurate in front of goal. 4-10-34 they lead Port Adelaide. 2-4-16. 2 goals to Will Hayward, singles to Blakey, McInerney, Horne-Francis and Butters. A couple of injury concerns in the opening half, but everybody's good to go. That includes Jason Horne-Francis and Tom Papley. Aaron Bryans and Tom Wilson calling the action for you alongside Premiership stars Rod Jamieson and Dean Brogan on ABC Sport. And gee, there was a big result earlier today. North Melbourne defeating Carlton for their 4th win of the season. You don't get to hear it often, so here's the song in the rooms. Goals in the second term. Carlton had the last 5 but couldn't get over the line. Cam Zerha with 3 goals. Harry Sheasel had 30 touches and a goal as well, and he caught up with Ray Chamberlain afterwards to explain what the vibe was like after that win.
Yeah, it is, Razor. Thank you. It was actually half forward today, which was a nice little change up, which I enjoyed, and just so proud of the boys, and it feels so good to win on the G against the Blues.
Moving forward and getting in that half of the ground, right? Obviously, you play up and down, and it's all about utilising your skills, which I think the boys today were a little bit upset about how the ball was being used from both sides, to be honest. Much of it to do with the team's pressure on the ball carrier. Which part of the ground do you prefer playing in?
I don't really mind, to be honest. I think that's the beauty of a lot of our players. We have a lot of versatile players that can play half-back, mid and forward, and we just shuffle that based on who we're versing, how we're going personally, and just the mix. So I'm happy to mix it up. I think that's going to be our way going forward. We need to if we're going to have the players that we've got. So, yeah, it's exciting.
It definitely is exciting. Now, mate, you had an extended period across the other side of the country, split results, but tight games, and then coming out of that extended time away together, great momentum, and I think a bit of confidence and belief from what we observed out there. Tell us about the extended time away and what the club was able to take out of it.
Yeah, 100%. We had so much fun as a group, a young group going away across the other side of the country for 10 days, spending every day together. It's only going to be good for our young group to develop that connection, but we were really pleased with our performance last week against the Dockers. Probably wasn't our greatest performance the week before against the Eagles, but we got the job done, but last week didn't get the job done and played well. So we did have a lot of confidence coming back home off the back of that trip today, and we knew that we could get the Blues if we played our best footy, and we did for those first 3 quarters, and got a bit scary in the last.
No, well, you got the points as well today, obviously. You talked about the young group, and I know when they say young, that can mean a range of things. Everybody out there is young in my eyes, mate. But today, McKercher, he was unbelievable. You had Tommy Powell in the middle, got a heap of it and was tackling and smashing and what have you. And then also you've got the mix with the likes of Parker, Darling and Daniel. Tell us about this mix. Tell us who's got the right of reply? Who's the big dog in the change rooms? Is it the young chirpy blokes or is it the old warriors?
Honestly, I'm not just saying it because it's cliche, but there are no big dogs in our group. That's what's so good. Like the old boys like Parks and everything, like they get along so well with us young boys, and we just embrace everyone for who they are. And it doesn't matter the age. We have no hierarchy, and we all get along on field, off field. That's great. And I think back to your question about the young players playing together, I think we're just building so much trust in each other from that experience. Like, we are young by age, but we're getting a lot of footy together and we're learning each week and building that chemistry.
Harry Sheasel speaking there with Ray Chamberlain after North Melbourne's 4th win of 2025. They defeated Carlton by 11 points. The Blues sink to 6-8. The Roos are 4-9-1. A massive performance for Harry Sheasel with 30 touches and a goal. Speaking there to Razor Ray as part of our ABC Sport coverage. Still to come, Collingwood and St Kilda at the Docklands tonight. But all eyes on the second half here at the Adelaide Oval as the sun starts to set. The lights are on. And Sydney leads by 18 points over Port Adelaide. It arguably should be a way bigger margin. They've dominated most of the major stats, but have been very inaccurate in front of goal, the Swans. 4-10-34. Port Adelaide 2-4-16. Much of the same to come, Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson, or will Port Adelaide find an answer?
Well, look, Port Adelaide is still in it. You know, it's 20 points. They haven't played at their best. Sydney, as we have spoken about, are playing at a really high level, but scoreboard pressures is the best pressure, and there's none there at the moment. 4 goals sends left the door open for Port Adelaide, but for Port Adelaide is where's it going to come from? They're getting beaten in the midfield, they're getting beaten ahead of the footy, their back half's hanging in there. They need to start finding some winners across the ground, and it all starts at the contest in the midfield.
First possession, Grundy, Heaney, Sheldrick, Jordan, Papley, Warner, Goulden, and then Willem Drew. So that needs to change in the middle of the ground and around the ground. Clearances, stoppages, they just need to get their hands on the football, Port Adelaide.
Interesting, Jason Horne-Francis. I don't reckon I've seen him much in the midfield at all today, so clearly that shoulder is bothering him, but can you throw him in there, bring him up as a half forward, get him around the footy, or just play him on the wing or something? He's got to get involved. If Port to win this game, he has to get involved.
Text line 0437 774 774. It's Saturday footy on ABC Sport.
Start of the second half. Vizentini knocks it down, tries to regather. Heaney's there with Butters and Drew. Heaney tries to pick it up again, tackled by Drew. So Drew's got the job on Heaney here to start this second half. On the wing, Moraes versus Goulden. What a tough challenge for the youngster. Cleverly done there by Butters. Gets it to Burton, but his quick kick is intercepted by Callum Mills, who's having a day out at centre-half back. Handballs to Blakey, looking for a dangerous ball inside to Chad Warner. It's perfect. He marks 80 from goal. He's directing traffic. With his back to the ball was Burton. Or it was Farrell, in fact. And he was beaten by Papley, who marks 30 metres out away to the right.
Well, sorry, Jamo. It was the mark off half back, and they just went straight away. Handball received straight away and just caught Port Adelaide off on the hop. And yeah, it started the third quarter like they had the first quarter, Jamo.
Well, Nick Blakey off the back line once again. Short kick. Warner wins it, and then there's 2 options available. Papley's the one that he chose.
Back into the team today. It's his first. Oh, it's not. He was riding. He was almost celebrating. I was watching him, not the ball. Fooled me. And another big miss for the Swannies, Brogues. They're 4-11-35.
It could come back to hurt them.
Port 2-4-16.
19-point lead to the visitors.
7 players have kicked behinds for Sydney.
Burton kicks up towards Butters, had a runner, handball slightly smothered by McInerney, but got it to Lockie Jones. Now Rosie to the broadcast wing, who to? Brodie Grundy in space takes the uncontested mark.
It's only just after half-time, but this is as poor as I've seen Port Adelaide use the football off the half-back line all year.
Classic Port Adelaide roller coaster. Backs against the wall, they'll pull out a big win, and then when they start to get on a roll, they dish up something like this. Kick wide to Harry Cunningham. He's close to the boundary line, and then back to left half-back is Dane Rampy, the 35-year-old. Through the logo, down the line. Sweet got in front, knocked away from him late. Bergman might have popped a finger as he battles with James Rowbottom over the line. Just a little jar, he'll stay out. Boundary throw in to come, Sydney by 19.
Well, it's funny you say that, Jamo. You know, losing Rosie off half-back to go in the midfield, you miss that punch off half-back, don't you?
Boundary throw in, Vizentini straight to Horne-Francis, who's in there in the midfield, was tackled by Rowbottom, got a kick off the ground, then Burton embraced the tackle from Rowbottom, and he's been pinged for that. Umpiring has been hot on that the last few weeks. Rowbottom plays on, kicking up high ball. One of the Port defenders fell over. Amati had a fly at it, gathered by Bergman. Handball towards the goal square, and Farrell, who's keen to get this over. There wasn't really much pressure on him at all.
He's paid it.
I think the whole of Adelaide Oval knew what he was trying to do, and Amati just laid off him.
I reckon that's the right call too. It is.
Well, you have to be under pressure, don't you?
And Amati just runs around, snaps it, and hits the post. That's his 4th behind for Joel Amati. Radaglia lets him know about it. A reprieve for the Power. 4-12-36 Sydney. Port 2-4-16 early in this third quarter.
All from set shots as well for Joel Amati. Different angles, but he can't make it work. Port clear it to the broadcast side. Radaglia to Lockie Jones.
Poor kick
just
by Lockie
dumped
Jones.
it long.
There's no system to it. They're just bombing it.
We're just looking at that replay. Kane Farrell started to pick up the footy just inside the square, so he's gone back all that distance and fumbled around, so there was no intent to keep the football alive. So as unfortunate as it was, they have got out of jail by Amati missing an easy one.
Cunningham cut it off. Shared it with his skipper Mills. Looking for Heaney in the corridor. Arm came in, but he keeps fighting for it, Isaac Heaney. Gives it off to Mills. Another touch. He'll swing it to the defensive edge on the eastern side. Milliken has a teammate wide. Uses Rampy. Right on the logo in front of the Bashir stand. Sydney by 20 points. Rampy called to play on. Heads for a march. Under no pressure. Long kick towards the arc. McLean came late. Had to spoil against Burton and knocks it into the third row.
I think for me, just that incident in the middle there, Heaney wins it. There's 3 Sydney players to 1 Port Adelaide player. That's why the contested and the ground ball gets are so heavily favoured at the moment to Sydney.
Umpire tosses it in. Grundy straight down to Farrell, dropped it on the first attempt, and then he was mauled by a pair of Swans, McInerney and Heaney, and we'll have another ball up. Swans.
They can be nasty in a part too, Tom.
Swans up by 20 points. Drew just knocked that towards the boundary line, and we'll have another throw in. Ball just sort of moved 20 odd metres towards the Port end. Ken Hinkley on the bench.
My mother-in-law got attacked by a peacock.
It would be at least, pretty to be attacked by.
Any damage?
She doesn't like him.
Tossed in, beats both rucks. Richards out the back door, went for the volley. Another hit and hope to no one. Bounces towards the line and out on the full in the end. So a free kick to Sydney in front of the Williams stand. Port's kicks past the halfway line have been miserable. Sydney by 20. Kick up towards right half forward. Vicentini got in front. Free kick against Radaglia for a push. McLean takes it, hands it off to Mills, spots a target in the scoreboard pocket, places it towards Papley, who pushes off Farrell and reels it in back with the flight. 25 out, right forward pocket. Tom Papley returns.
They got to do something about Mills. Mills is absolutely destroying them at the moment. Someone's got to go to him, at least pay him some attention, because he is running amok off half-back.
Well, you got Blakey as well, and then I get Kane Farrell. I get the match-up too on Papley, but he wants to go forward as opposed to defend, and Papley's been the target.
Papley on the tight angle, looking to work some magic. It's across the face and knocked through for a minor score. 3 consecutive behinds for Sydney to start the third term, and they're up by 21 points on ABC Sport.
Burton's kicking was terrible to Farrell. It was well read by Heaney, who could see it from a mile away. He's marked 40 metres out directly in front.
I think you've got to give Sydney credit too in the first half, the way that they have defended and the way they've attacked and all the stats that we spoke about at half time, but they continue to do it. But certainly Port Adelaide aren't doing themselves any favours.
So Heaney with an opportunity. Had a shot earlier from a similar spot and missed. Can he convert this time? Isaac Heaney. He can. And Port Adelaide finally made to pay. A shocking kick from the kick-in by Burton, intercepted by Heaney. They go to 5-13-43 Port, 2-4-16.
Yeah, it was good call, Jamo. Their pressure ahead of the footy has been elite, and they've just put the Port Adelaide backs under severe pressure, even though that was an uncontested mistake by Burton on a kick-out. But the pressure, it's just perceived pressure, and you make silly decisions. But this is where Port Adelaide can sometimes wave the white flag. We've seen Port Adelaide get destroyed from here in games. Can they hang in there and just hang around? But you would have to say at the moment, the floodgates could open up and this could get really ugly for Port Adelaide, because what we're seeing and with our own eyes and what we're calling is Port Adelaide are nowhere near it at the moment.
8 minutes into this third quarter, it's 12 marks to 1 in favour of Sydney, and 15-4 uncontested, which is where Port Adelaide were on top in that second quarter.
The Swans have had 10 of the last 11 scoring shots, and here comes another. McInerney surging out of the clearance into the 50. Lockie Jones got in front, off hands, knocked over the line by Radaglia. The Swans thought maybe a free kick there, but we tossed in and said 20 out from home. Port have had their two heaviest losses under Ken Hinkley this season, 91 and 90, plus a 76-point loss as well. Now they're heading towards a similar fate. Grundy wins it down. Drew was there. Got it back to his ruckman sweep. Around the body, high hit. Up to the defensive edge. Off hands, Lockie Jones. Wrapped up immediately by Goulden. Spun around in the washing machine, holding the ball.
Well, he broke the first one, couldn't get the second one, so it's the right decision.
Goulden rewarded with the free kick. Looking for a Marty who marks on the chest enough. Did spill out when he got some pressure from Radigalia, but the umpires paid the mark. 40 metres out in a 45-degree angle.
Well, he needs this, doesn't he? He's kicked, 0 goals 5. He has to kick this. 0 goals 4. He has to kick this.
Well, for me, again, it's just Port Adelaide's poor setup in defence. Like, you just can't have a key forward run into a hole like that.
So if he misses, it'll be a handful of behinds. But he could get his first of the afternoon. In comes Joel Omar. He's kicked it off his ankle. That's just
officially has the yips.
He's just walking in, though. There's no real intent to actually get forward. There's no momentum behind his kick.
I don't think that ball spun end over end at any stage. Coming out of defence under pressure, though, is Port. Sweet. His kick did work in the end, but a handball to Burgoyne. His has put Sam Powell-Pepper under pressure. The ball works his way through. Farrell puts Bergman under pressure. Here are those handballs, Brogues. Intercepted by Blakey. Hands it off to Jordan. Now to Blakey again. Goes inside the forward 50. It's a bit of a kick in hope. Francis! He wasn't paid the mark. It was 1 on 3. It was one of the best marks against the flight of the footy you'll see. Not paid. And Port, they worked their way through it to sin.
There wasn't a single moment there where he turned around to look at the footy. He took it purely back with the flight, back to the ball drop against 3, and they haven't given it to him. That's rough. Sydney's still up by 27. Out to the eastern side go Port Adelaide. It's coming straight back. Grundy clunks it in the pack. Again, that halfway line just feels like an end zone for Port Adelaide right now. They just got to get it over.
Well, they haven't got a pass centre at the moment.
They're not changing angles. They're not even looking to switch. They just keep kicking long down the line, and it's just not working for them.
Grundy to Blakey, drives it into the 50. On the march is Amadi, caught behind, off hands. Francis juggles it, arcs away from Rosie, but loses his footing. Handballs it straight into the boots of Burton, and they'll call it a boundary throw-in in front of the Wanganeen stand.
Well, it's now 0-7 inside 50s this quarter in favour of Sydney.
I mean, do you move Rosie to half back so they can get some punch? They just can't get anything out of their back line. You might have to move him back just to change some angles with the football.
I think they need to put Willie Rioli back there, Georgie Yarding's back there too, and a whole lot more, because they're not winning the football.
Clearance goes to Liddy, but he just kicks it to space. There's 2 Swans players running back there. They were probably happy to let that go out. They didn't in the end because Wicks was clean and he found a target centre wing. It's Sheldrick.
The Claremont product called to play on. So Sheldrick sends it up to right half forward. One-on-one there. Zerk Thatcher beats Aaron Francis. And then kicks through defensive 50 to Farrell. Dan from Perth on the text line says, the never tear us apart ritual Port Adelaide have is very ironic for a side that does a very good job of doing that to themselves.
Can't argue with that.
Rosie now up towards the broadcast wing. Kick is good. Hits Richards close to the logo. Has a runner. Hands it to Moraes. Links up with Powell-Pepper. Moraes thrusts it up towards the 50. Walls are closing and Mead misses his target. The handball game. Richards gets another chance. Spots 2 and they collide. Rioli and Burgoyne, and Willie Rioli somehow holds onto the footy. Had no right to. That is the 3rd collision between teammates of Port Adelaide players tonight. And Willie Rioli's done well when he's been cleaned up.
Wow. They almost botched that. At least they changed the angle. So Thatcher marks it, switches the angle, it came out the other side. And although it was pretty ugly, at least he gets inside 50 for a shot on goal. And Rioli should kick this.
I feel like I'm watching an episode of the Benny Hill Show.
Willie Rioli crosses the paint of 50. Kick is good. And they roar as Eagles won with a bit of hope once again. Margin down to 21 points. 3-4-22. Sydney 5-13-43. 13 played in the third term. Saturday footy on ABC Sport with Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson.
Well, there's still so much football to play, so Port Adelaide is still in every chance. You're right, it feels like Sydney should have been miles ahead as they are, but to only be 21 points ahead halfway through the third, and so many players just hadn't had their hands on the football or aren't playing good football, they're not using it well, they're still well in the game.
That was almost calamitous, that contact between Rioli and Burgoyne.
Really well to mark that Rioli in the end. But you're right, Jamo, it's a 20-point game and they're playing nowhere near the level, but they're still in the game.
Visentini knocks it down. Sheldrick gathered. He took on the tackles. Not sure how he got rid of it. Play on. Sheldrick gathered. Goes back towards the top of the centre-half forward line there. Amati with Radigalia. Radagalia's kick was intercepted by Chad Warner. It was a kick under pressure. So Warner's got it in the centre square. Switches it to Cunningham. He's waiting for the run of Wicks, but instead just takes his time.
Just change the angles as they enter 50.
So he decides to go long. McLean, out the back is Amati. Goes the dribbler, and at the last line of defence, it does well to knock it through. That'll be a rush behind. The Swans 5-14-44. They double the power. They're 3-4-22. 15 minutes gone in this third quarter.
Can you imagine the great Jason Dunstall, what he'd be thinking watching those football?
If he had hair, he'd be ripping it out. Out to the eastern side. Liddy kicked it towards Mead. Pinpoint pass to Horne-Francis. He waits and calls Willie Rioli. Reeled him in like a fishing rod. Rioli on the charge. Left forward pocket. 45 from home takes the mark.
Well, it's probably only the second time maybe that Port Adelaide have actually gone from one end of ground to the other, or certainly held possession and then found a target. I think they did it with Georgiades maybe in the first quarter. Other times it's just been getting it in, bombing it long. He's going to be right on his distance.
In front of the Rashudo stand, so a tight angle as well. Willie Rioli fooled everybody. Places the kick 20 from home. Straight to the lap of Mitch Georgiades. Give him an Oscar. It was a perfect play.
Oh, it was great synergy, wasn't it? And, yeah, you're right, Gemmo. It was probably too far out to Rioli, but the synergy that those two have, played a bit of footy together now. Big hole there. Sydney would be very disappointed with that. But, yeah, great set play by Port Adelaide. And dare I say it, but Mitch should put this one in, Aaron. Mitch ain't missing this.
Mitch Georgiades on a 12-game goal-scoring streak. Comes in and opens his account. There's a pulse at the Adelaide Oval. Margins down to 16 points. Sydney 5-14-44. Port Adelaide 4-4-28. No right to be there, but it's game on. Closing in on time on in the third term. Saturday footy on ABC Sport. And Alan at Ocean Grove on the text line nails it. Bad kicking is bad football. And here we are, Jamo, with a close game.
Well, I think Collingwood are probably the best at it, aren't they, too? Their efficiency with the football, both by foot and hand, but certainly in front of goals. Port Adelaide have only been into the forward 50 on 2 occasions for 2 goals, so you'll take that every day. Sydney this quarter 8, and they've got 1 goal for. The margin back to 15 points.
Back in the middle of the ground. Vicentini knocks it down, overrunning it with Sheldrick. Quick hands from Butters. Horne-Francis in the midfield. Brogues gets the clearance to Moraes. Goes for the 1-2 as well. Marks it right half forward. Power has a spark. 70 from goal. Goes short to Moraes. That was at least 20, but play on, says the umpire. Goes back to Horne-Francis, who finds Rosie 40 metres out in a 45-degree angle.
Don't just change the angles, change it up. Don't be predictable. And Port Adelaide have been able to do that in the last couple of minutes.
Well, they're getting their A-graders around the football, and I said it before, if they're going to win this game, Jason Horne-Francis needs to get going, and they put him in the midfield, and he's had some sort of impact. He's at the 5 disposals, going at 80% efficiency.
and with one arm. He's high-fiving with his left, and his right arm is just dangling.
In comes the skipper. Started it right. Always knew that was missing. So minus score, 4-5-29 Port Adelaide. Sydney 5-14-44. 19 minutes gone in this third quarter. Saturday footy for ABC Sport.
Collingwood and St Kilda coming up next with Matt Clinch, Lauren Borden, Daniel Harford and Chad Wingard. As Callum Mills sends it towards left half back. And Aaron Francis, nice mark.
He can get in the air.
Just needs some consistency in his footy, but it's very damaging when he gets a crack at it. Actually had 3 goals in the final quarter against Port in round 6. Nearly snatched the win for the Swans. A switch through defensive 50 out to the right half back. Entangled is Bergwijn and Roberts. Crowd wanted a free kick. Instead, they'll get a boundary throw in.
It's just a better defensive effort by Port Adelaide. Sydney just stagnant, had to switch, had no options, went long. Now it's just outside their 50.
Sub has been activated. Jordan Sweet off. Jeremy Finlayson in.
What role will he play? Is he going to still play the ruck? Go forward?
I think he'd go somewhere between the two. It's kind of what Sweet was doing. From the boundary throw-in, Goulden kicked it back towards the boundary line. Grundy gathered. Liddy couldn't get the smother on, so Grundy's kicks down the line and Zerk Thatcher takes it out in the end. Just forward of centre wing, we'll have a throw-in.
Tactical sub there as well, so no issue for Jordan Sweet, but with Dante Vicentini in the side, they've decided to give Jeremy Finlayson a go.
There he is, he's up forward at the moment, standing alongside Lewis Melican.
Spoke to Chris Davies in the pre-game last week before the Demons clash, and he said they weren't happy with Jeremy Finlayson's efforts again in the Canberra clash against the Giants, so can he deliver tonight? Tossed in, out of the stoppage, quick tackle laid by Liddy, and we'll get a ball up. Errol Goulden, the last man off the carpet. Eastern side at the moment. Sydney currently up by 15 points. Out of the stoppage, Sheldrick got a quick kick, tumbles towards the 50. Papley read it best. Radagalia, desperate dive to run him down. And the ball pops out like a bar of soap over the boundary line. 45 from home. Sydney on the press. Kicking to the northern end in this third term. Sun well and truly set here.
It was what felt like minus 1.5 on the way to the game last weekend. Adelaide and Hawthorn in Tassie.
Boundary throw in, beat them all. Out the back is Goulden. Was tackled by Liddy. Kick not 15 metres. The mark was dropped anyway by Farrell. Tackled by Warner. Ball it up.
Not quite like that here at the minute, Tom. 15 degrees.
Much nicer here in Adelaide. No roof either. Socket off the ground by Jordan. Gathered there by Sheldrick on the right foot. Flying shot at goal. Fisted over the line by Jones. So a minus score to the Swans. They go to 5-15-45. Port 4-5-29. That's a 16-point margin. 22 minutes gone.
Quick release from Port Adelaide. A long bomb from Burton. Here's Horn Francis for disposal 6 in the term. On the 45, kick was a little shallow for Liddy. Left the footy behind and was crunched, so he gets the free kick. Smart play from the mid-season draftee. He's had a couple of mares in this contest, just rushing his delivery. This time, he opts for the superstar in Horn Francis. Fist comes across from Roberts and he knocks it into the fence. Richard from Geelong's enjoying the call, messaging in on the text line while making meatballs in the kitchen, having suffered through watching my beloved Cats butcher the ball every which way last night. Is there some sort of bad kicking hanging over Australia this weekend?
I love a good meatball.
So Roberts wins a free kick, goes against Liddy. It was for high contact.
Free kicks, 9 apiece.
Runs around on his left boot. Long down the line. At the front was Zerk Thatcher. Radagalia fisted it out. Moraes cleverly knocked that out over the boundary line. The umpire couldn't see. So we'll have a throw in near the Swans bench.
I'll tell you what Port Adelaide doing a lot better is they're locating a lot better. So they're stopping Sydney switching, so forcing Sydney to go long down the line, whereas first half Sydney were able to switch the ball and cut them up a little bit through there. So they're doing that really well now, Port.
Well, this quarter, Sydney have had their hands on the footy, but the last 10 minutes, it's all Port Adelaide, 30% to 19.
Swans by 16. Rosie out of the stoppage, hands it to Farrell, rides some contact, and then swings the kick through defensive 50. Sin looks to go back where it came from. Zerk Thatcher, right half back. They've got a Paddock now to work with Farrell down the line. Horn Francis has 2 to beat. Nearly took the hanger. Put it down. McCartan did well. Hands it to Chad Warner. Rowbottom. Across to Roberts. Kick was wide of Francis. Tumbles over the line and a boundary throw in front of the benches.
The fact that crowds call for that now shows that umpires have paid shockers, don't you think?
I totally agree. Like, that only missed, was it, Francis by maybe 2 metres. It's just a missed kick under pressure.
Boundary throw in. Grundy cleverly to Rowbottom. Pumps it inside the forward 50 to the advantage of McLean. Radaglia did well enough. He kept his feet. Kick out of defence to Burgoyne.
Brilliant by Radaglia. That was absolutely brilliant defending. Jeez, he's in good form.
So switch back to Radaglia at full back. To Zerk Thatcher now. Right half back.
Sydney have got him covered here. They can't get out.
They're starting to figure out that fake switch isn't worth committing to. Gee, that was a dangerous kick to Lockie Jones, but it's worked in the end. They've turned and gone, running in a line. The inside 50 entry is horrific. He had them queuing up Lockie Jones and has given it straight down the throat of Callum Mills. And Sydney get away with one. Kick wide to Roberts. And then an inboard pass to Chad Warner. He'll head up towards centre wing on the broadcast side to Heaney, who takes the contested mark against Drew. So Port were flooding there. Didn't cash in.
Love watching Heaney play.
Sydney by 16. Campbell has the footy. Spots McLean alone. Football. And it's a perfect pass. He takes the mark. 40 from home. Slight angle to the right.
I love Zach Butters, and I think he is one of the best players in the competition. But he has had 18 handballs and 7 kicks. The guy is an A-grade kicker. I'm not sure why he's not kicking the ball inside 50. There's something going on there. Like, he should not have 7 kicks.
Currently running alongside Rowbottom for most of this contest. Not really a hard tag. McLean, meanwhile, crosses the paint of 50. Starts right. And the crowd will tell you the story. Minor score. Sydney by 17 points. Their inaccuracy grows 5-16-46 to Port 4-5-29.
This is going to come back and hurt them. You can just feel it, can't you? You can't kick this many behinds and not expect the team to come back at you in the last quarter. It could be costly for them.
So the switch from Rosie to Bergman. And a beautiful pass to Drew and a good strong mark against 3 Swans. Handballs inside to Burgoyne to Burn-Jones. Marks, left half forward, 70 from home.
What's the most behinds a team has ever kicked in a game?
You're making me work, Jamo.
I'll just watch you there texting.
Burn-Jones into the centre square to Rosie. Switches on to Zerk Thatcher. Butters has got the footy and he kicks. Look at Richards all on his own. Dean Brogan, that was one of the great kicks by who?
He must have listened to me. He needs to kick the football. I don't understand why he is not kicking the ball all the time. I know he's a creative player and he wants to draw and run and get 1-2 link-ups, but he needs to kick the football for this team to win football games.
His penetration and height,
that kick was amazing.
It wasn't a flat ball, it wasn't a high ball, but it wasn't a fast ball either. Into the lap of Richards. Lining up from 40 metres out, 45-degree angle. On the trot goes Richards. And can Joe go? No. Hits the post. High up on the post. Good contact. Minor score. 4-6-30. Sydney 5-16-46. Late in this third quarter.
Speaking of behinds, Hawthorn kicked 25 goals, 41 in 1977 against St Kilda. Won by 88 points, but yes, 41 behinds, Jamo, is the record.
41? Was that 66 shots or something?
68.
68.
So a quarter to go here at the Adelaide Oval, and the game is well and truly alive. If you looked at the scoring shots, you'd say Sydney are home, but it's just a 16-point lead for the visitors. 5-16-46 to Port Adelaide's 4-6-30. Goal scorers heading into the final change. 2 to Hayward, singles to Heaney, Blakey and McInerney for the power, all individual. Butters, Rioli, Horne-Francis and Georgiades. Jordan Sweet tactically subbed. Jeremy Finlayson on, but hasn't got a touch yet. And the Swans yet to pull the trigger with their sub, Riley Bice, waiting in the wings to make his impact on this game. It is great to have you with us ahead of Collingwood and St Kilda at the Docklands on ABC Radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app. This is Saturday Footy on ABC Sport.
As each day begins,
get the facts you need to stay informed.
Every day, across your day.
Stay with Australia's trusted news source.
all the latest, all verified.
Stay in the know with ABC News.
On ABC TV and ABC iView.
This is the 2025 AFL Premiership season on ABC Sport.
Burton's kicking was terrible to Farrell. It was well read by Heaney, who could see it from a mile away. He's marked 40 metres out directly in front. Had a shot earlier from a similar spot. Missed. Can he convert this time? Isaac Heaney. He can. And Port Adelaide finally made to pay.
Richards gets another chance. Spots two and they collide. Rioli and Burgoyne, and Will Rioli somehow holds onto the footy. Had no right to. That is the third collision between teammates of Port Adelaide players tonight. And Willie Rioli's done well when he's been cleaned up. Willie Rioli crosses the paint of 50. Kick is good. Pinpoint pass to Horn Francis. He waits and calls Willie Rioli. Reeled him in like a fishing rod. Willie Rioli fooled everybody. Places the kick 20 from home. Straight to the lap of Mitch Georgiades. Give him an Oscar. It was a perfect play. Mitch Georgiades on a 12-game goal-scoring streak. Comes in and opens his account. There's a pulse at the Adelaide Oval.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the AFL.
On your radio.
ABC Sport Digital.
And on the ABC Listen app.
A must-win clash as the season slips away for Port Adelaide and Sydney, sides sitting 11th and 13th, and they're playing the brand of footy that resembles their ladder positioning, but the desperate effort is there. The accuracy is not. Sydney 5-16-46 to Port Adelaide's 4-6-30. Big game of footy coming your way next as part of this Saturday trifecta. So earlier the Roos defeating Carlton by 11 points, and up next we're headed to Docklands for Collingwood and St Kilda. Star-studded team that includes Daniel Harford, Chad Wingard, Lauren Borden and Matt Clinch, who can join us now for a preview. Clinchy.
Aaron, the Latin leading Magpies, fresh off a week off. They host St Kilda in the first of two home matches at Docklands across the next fortnight. The Pies are currently riding a 5-game winning streak and get Pat Lipinski back following concussion against the Hawks. They have a 2-game break on the Brisbane Lions at the top of the ladder. They'll be keen to try and continue that. While St Kilda sit in 14th spot and were brought back to reality following a 72-point loss to the Western Bulldogs last Thursday night. Their fourth loss in 5 games. Ross Lyon has answered the critics to play the kids. So the 10th draft pick from last year, Alex Taru, will make his debut. One of the best intercept descenders in the draft. Having served his 4-game suspension in the VFL, he will make his debut tonight. 18 years of age, 193 centimetres. He has one of the best nicknames going around, the Flying Viking. So we'll see he will go in the Saints' colours tonight. Looking forward to bringing it to you, as you mentioned, alongside Lauren Borden, Daniel Harford, Chad Wingard and Lex Pesher with you. It's the Magpies and the Saints after you.
Looking forward to it, Clinchy. ABC Sport on the ABC Listen app as well. You can hear every game live and ad-free during play. Aaron Bryans and Tom Wilson calling the action here. Rod Jamieson, Dean Brogan, your premiership experts in the ABC Sport box. It's been a rough game to watch, Brogues, but it's a close one.
Well, it has, and Sydney have left the door open, and something tells me Port's going to win this game. I just felt a bit of energy, a bit of effort. The effort's been there all night, Port. We can't question that, but all these behinds, it's going to pay the price to Sydney. I think Port can snatch this one. I really do. I think they can kick a couple of goals really quickly, and all of a sudden Sydney are under the pump. And if you can't kick goals when you should, it's going to come back to bite you. But a lot on the line for Port Adelaide and for Sydney. The loser, pretty much season over. The winner, well, you're getting closer to the 8. So who wants it more? Sydney have been the better team all night, but there's something about Port Adelaide. They're just hanging in. They're hanging in, and all of a sudden kick 2 quick goals and it's game on.
Well, the uncontested 56-36 in that quarter. They lead significantly overall. The contested ground balls, it's all Sydney. It's the tough in and under footy, but 5 inside 50s Port Adelaide for 2 goal 2. 11 inside 50s that quarter for 1 goal 6. It's just extraordinary, the easy shots that Sydney have missed tonight, to be 5 goals, 16 at three-quarter time, and be up by just the 16 points. You're right, it's well and truly kept Port Adelaide in the game. For me, it just feels like it's just Sydney's ball game, and it should have been from the outset.
On the text line, Brett in Canberra says, is there some sort of goal-kicking curse at Adelaide Oval like the Bermuda Triangle? It has been weird the last few weeks. So Melbourne struggled, Brisbane struggled against Adelaide, so the Swans are the latest victims, unfortunately, with 5-16. And Effie in Trundle in New South Wales says the Swans need to let the clutch out. Too many squandered opportunities. Here we go.
But
Sydney by 16.
Break off.
Grundy out of the middle. Here we go. Into the 50 for Sydney. Charging out to meet it was Lockie Jones. Beats Campbell but loses his footing. Handball just wide of Burton. Liddy sold the high tackle and is rewarded. Dropped that knee and gets the high one. Free kick to the second gamer at left half back. Leg, sleeve and all, Matty Liddy. Now looking for an option for the Power.
Decides to go down the line. Coming across the front was Powell Pepper. Visentini was there in a contest with Grundy, and Powell Pepper will take it out over the boundary line in front of the interchange gates.
About 2 years ago, Tom, I reckon, they always had players that overacted for frees. Every player now that gets even remotely high just throws their head back, hoping that the umpire will pay that. He used to get fined for doing that.
You still can. Gathered by Campbell from the boundary throw-in. Handball to McInerney, who was tackled by Powell Pepper. That was strong. Down goes Drew. Gets back to his feet. Georgiades, clever ball in board. Powell Pepper was met with a heavy tackle from Rampy. Put in the washing machine. And we'll have a ball up 75 metres from the Power goal. Left half forward.
It's like tackling a crocodile, isn't it?
Just a lot of wriggling. Sydney by 16. Tap down, Rosie, quick entry, picked off by Blakey. He's been very good. Had a quiet patch in the middle of the campaign, but the last fortnight, or last month really, has been tremendous. Doesn't know what to do here and called to play on. Burne-Jones is closing. He'll kick towards the broadcast wing. Terrific. Amati far from home, right on the boundary line, takes the mark. You know what? This is probably the best place for Joel Amati to be because he's missed 5 set shots tonight.
And kicked it straight.
Through centre wing he goes. Radaglia back with the flight, nearly cut it off, slipped out of his mitts. And a tackle laid on Matty Liddy will hold things up right half forward for the Swans.
Tossed up by the umpire. Grundy down to Heaney. Drew for company. Blakey's handball. It was Jordan, in fact. Quick kick there from Goulden off the ground. Amati there with Radaglia. Tries to keep it in play towards McInerney. But worried out by Rosie.
Sydney have activated their subs, so Aaron Francis out tactical again. Riley Bice in for Sydney, and earlier we saw Jordan Sweet out and Jeremy Finlayson in.
Talking of Werribee, what a story.
Mature ager, Riley Bice.
Another left footer.
Tossed in. Grundy taps it towards the boundary line, tracking it as Horn Francis head over the footy. Mills meets him with the tackle. Wrenched out of there by Jordan, who throws it on the boot, but it had carried over the line.
No, it's going to go back. I think Horn Francis tackled him by the foot. So Jordan's going to win the free.
It's marked by McLean, deep forward.
Was a hit and hope thumping kick, so they're giving Jordan a chance to lower the eyes here. He does that, just 15. Crowd didn't think it was. Papley marks, still at right half forward. Port have flooded defensive 50. Papley will squeeze it into the right forward pocket. Lockie Jones throws his body in. Another whistle for a hold. This one's going the way of
Isaac
Sydney
Heaney.
and Isaac Heaney. Big call in a tight game. Isaac Heaney will take the set shot, 25 out, tight angle.
Willem Drew was the offender. He's all class here. He's going to snap across his right shoulder on the left foot.
Punish the power in the prelim, Isaac Heaney. He'll arc around, curl it on the left, through for his second.
What a goal.
Worked the angle majestically, and Sydney's up by 22 points. 6-16-52 to the Powers, 4-6-30. 4 played in the final term on ABC Sport.
That is a hard kick, Jamo, isn't it? Foot 35 metres out, snapping on your left over your right shoulder. Like, it's an incredible shot on goal. And, geez, he's been good tonight, Heaney. What's he kicked? 2 goals, 21 possessions, clearances, 10 contested possessions. He's been one of Sydney's best. It's interesting, I thought Bergman was running with him in the first half, and since the second half, Bergman nowhere near him. So I'm wondering
They've got Drew on him, Willem
why
Drew,
they've changed that. Yeah.
I reckon that shoulder.
Yeah, there's something going on with Bergman tonight. He just doesn't look right.
Spent a fair bit of time in that second quarter having his shoulder looked at. Back in the middle of the ground, that man Heaney, the goal kicker, gets it to McInerney, to Goulden, to Jordan. They got runners coming off half-back. Rampy. His kick, though, misses the target completely, marked by Burton, just on the corner of the centre square. So waste no time to get it to Drew in the centre circle. Quick handball to Liddy. He's got Burn-Jones on it, left half forward. He's got some space too. He goes low and flat and hard to Georgiades, who marks 45 metres out in a 45-degree angle.
Well, it's the Ryan Burton kick, wasn't in the middle of the ground too, able to intercept. It's just so damaging. Sydney had it, 4 or 5 disposals, runners coming from behind. Ryan Burton, Rampy, of all people too. Experience off the back line, on his preferred. Misses the body, and then it goes straight back over your head.
Just 4 goals for the game for Port Adelaide, trailing by 22 points. Big kick in the contest for Georgiades. Started right. It's not going to come back enough. Way for a minor score. Port 4-7-31. That's his second behind. Sydney 6-16-52. 6 minutes gone. Final turn.
Quick exit. They spotted an overlap. The kick put in the path of Bice. Tries to chip it to McInerney. Burton knew it was coming. His kick just as horrific as he turns it straight back over to Rampy. In front of the Odie stand on that eastern side. Sydney kicking to the city end. Rampy called to play on. He'll launch a long bomb. Up to left half forward. Bice floats above. Can't reel it in, and off hands. It's over the boundary line. Sydney by 21 points in this final term. Callum Mills, 24 touches.
It's a great return, isn't it? Coming back from injury, suspension. Been a great player.
Boundary throw in Grundy in the space. Overrunning, it was McInerney, so Grundy just gathers himself, handballs it off. Short kick from Bice. He had 2 to choose from, and he finds Haywood in the left forward pocket.
It's just the smarts. That's why they picked him up too. Just that left foot. You've got Grundy once again in the contest. Second effort. Big man Brogues. How important that is.
Yeah, he's been good, Grundy. He's been very, very good tonight against the young ruckman Vicentini. He'll learn a lot playing against Grundy tonight.
So Haywood, 35 metres out. He's also going to snap, but this is on his preferred right, around the body. Goal umpire loved it as soon as he kicked it, and Haywood gave it to Jones. It's his third for Haywood. Been a dominant small forward, if you can call him that. They go to 7-16-58. They're capitalising on the scoreboard in the final term. Port 4-7-31. 7.5 minutes gone, final term.
Well, they're not missing now. They're kicking their goals now, and looks like they're going to run away with it. But we just mentioned Brody Grundy, Jamo. You called it. He's been sensational tonight. He did the ruck tap. He followed up. He's been one of Sydney's best. And it's interesting, you know, Jordan Sweet, would he be a better matchup against Grundy tonight? But clearly they want to play Vicentini, get games into him. But yeah, Grundy's had his number tonight. He's been sensational.
Well, you know how important it is. So he's had 6 hit-outs to 0 in this quarter. Hit-outs to advantage 2. Clearances, Heaney, Jordan, Goulden, Grundy, all there. And first possession, all Sydney players once again. So that contested, dominant, hard ground ball gets, it is all Sydney in the early part of this last quarter.
Swans by 27. Grundy won the tap down towards Liddy, who's wrapped up by Rowbottom. Will go again. Tap favours Port Adelaide this time, although they're quickly set upon as Mead catches 3 tackles, including Errol Goulden, who cops a shove for his troubles. Ball up inside the centre square. Grundy wins it against Vicentini. Rowbottom edges Rosie out of the drop, hands it towards Heaney, shoots it wide. Goulden pulls the kick up to right half forward. Was a little shallow, but a clean take from Campbell, and he retreats with the kick back to Blakey. Centre wing broadcast side. Nick Blakey close to the logo. Sydney by 27.
He had Papley in the middle if he pulled the trigger, but he's gone wider.
Composed footy here. 45 kick to McInerney, then back to Blakey. They just killing the momentum here. Still 14 to go in this final term with that 5-goal advantage. This time they're under pressure. Ran out of options. The kick towards Sheldrick cut off. Burn-Jones gets it to Liddy. Rolls a kick around the body. Wormburner. And a crunching tackle late on Sin as he tried to fight for it. Rioli squeezes through the gap and gets a kick up to the attacking edge. Rosie tried to place the kick, dropped it. Papley committed to the spoil. And in the end, Rosie gets a flying shot on goal. Hand on the line, knocks it through for a minor score. So Sydney's lead down to 26. 9 played in the final term on ABC Sport.
Sydney was certainly messing around with it there, but they probably know that Port will need to double their score for the entire game to win it from here. So Blakey asked to play on. Short kick to the pocket was about 10 metres. Goes the 1-2 with McCartan. Another short kick out to left half back. It's Melican now. And he's going to go long and high down the line. Grundy marks. Been a very good player tonight. Inboard to Roberts near the logo. They got the overlap run now, the Swans. Mills can wait for Wicks. Decides to go at himself, looking for Papley, who marks it above his shoulders. 45 metres out on a 45-degree angle.
So much time, haven't they, too, Sydney? They're just, I think, the opposite. When we spoke about Sydney, particularly the first half, when Port Adelaide had the football and he's going to pass and kick poorly, intercepted by Willem Drew, and Port Adelaide are out.
Brain fade, turnover. Here come the Power. Kick up to Powell Pepper on the logo. Turns. One-on-one. Willerioli uses the body and just misses the drop. It was a little long. He was edged off it by Wicks. And McCartan can mop it up. His kick is pretty poor. Made McLean work. And it's over the boundary line in the end. So a little wide kick that bounces and a boundary throw-in. So Port do get another chance here, down 26. 33,576 in attendance tonight. Collingwood and St Kilda coming up next at Docklands. Tossed in, Grundy tried to paddle it out of there.
So I was just going to say, Aaron, like, Sydney were at Port Adelaide, and I think just through that passage of play, they just sort of sat off, which allowed Sydney to move the footy forward, opened a space. Port Adelaide didn't come at them, and that's been the real difference between the two sides for majority of the night.
It was knocked over the boundary line, so we go again. Finlayson gets a disposal, hands it to Liddy, kick smothered. Diving in Roberts, tries to rip the footy out. It was his effort that set this up. He's quickly wrapped up in the tackle, ball up.
35 from the Powers home. Finlayson, the sub. Rioli was pulled off by Wicks, but play on, says the umpire. Quick kick out. Dangerous towards Burgoyne and Bergman, who both set upon their Swans opponent at the bottom there. It's Goulden in his return game, so we'll have a ball up 65 metres around from the Power goal, right half forward. Finlayson just gets rid of Grundy in the contest. Burton embraces the tackle there from Rowbottom. Coming out is Burn-Jones. Handballs to Burgoyne, to Powell Pepper. He runs towards the paint of the boundary line. Centering ball to Georgiades, but just had too much on it, and McCartan takes the mark.
Very cool and composed in a time where he could have easily given away a free.
Crowd's getting restless. Handball to Blakey. Short pass to Melican. Dinks it forward to Grundy. He's in front of the Odie stand near left half back.
Sydney have done this too easy all night, haven't they?
Yeah, they've used the ball very well. They've been smart when they've had ball in hand. They've switched angles, uncontested mark, know when to go, when to switch, when to go slow, when to go quick. They've been, this is why they make grand finals. Last year, they're a very good side when they're at their best.
Speaking of kick mark. So Grundy to Roberts to Melican to McCartan. Now forward they go through the broadcast wing. McInerney uses Campbell. Loops it over the top with the hands to Rowbottom. Pulls the kick to Amati. Couple of juggles. And takes it 45 out, and he's not confident. He's looking for a teammate and gets one. Kicks not required. Not 15 in the end. So Hayward shoots a handball across to Goulden. He doesn't know what to do with it. Around the body. Wheels and centres the kick. 20 from home. Roberts flew, couldn't take it. Sheldrick out the back. Falls into the footy. Pepper on top of him. Late whistle. Ball up. Chiamati did not look comfortable at all. 5 missed set shots and he just didn't want to go for his 6th.
Kick it on the left.
Finlayson up against McLean in the ruck. Mead soccers it forward. Off the boot of Horne-Francis, gets it to Powell-Pepper. Handballed it back to Bergman, to Radigalia by hand. Running hard was Powell-Pepper. A banana kick. Pinpoint pass to Rosie, who dropped it. Puts himself under a lot of pressure. Rode the tackle from Gould and handballed back to Powell-Pepper. And a few fumbles from Rosie tonight. It's a strange thing to see. The effort's been there. Just hasn't been as clean as normal.
Well, he got hit early too, remember? There's the was handball forward and he had to jump in the air, and I think he got caught holding the ball.
Butters handball to him, yeah.
So Sydney by 26. 10 minutes to go here at the Adelaide Oval. Collingwood and St Kilda coming up. Finlayson in the ruck against McLean. Took it and dropped the footy. Sydney pounce. Couple of handballs. Comes out through Campbell. Out towards Roybottom. Sheldrick dishes it off to Papley, surging by, and on the burst he kicks it to Amati. Same spot. Will he go this time?
James Jordan's telling him, just have a shot, mate.
Come further back.
Joel Amati's going to take his set shot with the man on the mark, 40 from home.
Do you want to turn your mics off? I might yell out the window at him and just give him a hint.
4 behinds and an out on the full. Joel Amati.
Better.
Arcs to the right and sprays it again. Out on the full. The Amati party's a bust.
Wow.
Sydney by 26.
Look, Port fans have had a very tough day watching their team not play their best, but they're in tune with the game, aren't they?
Yep.
If they can get up and about from out of bounds on the full from an opponent forward, that's good stuff. Under pressure here, Port Adelaide bring it out of defence. They get it to Jones, who dips the back, gets it across to Drew. Right, it was Bergman, in fact, but his kick, Georgiades wanted it out over the back, and Rampy read it best. Takes the intercept mark, defensive side of centre wing, outer side of the ground.
They just haven't been able to get any flow, have they, from their back half tonight? And a lot of that's probably got to do with Rosie not being back there, to be honest.
Rampy to a pack at the 50, fist over the top of it and knocked over the boundary line. 45 from home for the Swans. So should they hold on to this 26-point lead, their record will be the same as Port's, 6 and 8. But the Swans have a better fixture moving forward. Port's gets tremendously tough from here, including some of the real heavy hitters on the run home. So you'd feel like Sydney are in a better position to make a miracle run.
I think they give this up tonight, Port. Unfortunately, it's going to make it hard to even get remotely close to the top 8.
Tossed in, Finlayson tapped it down. Roberts around the body, kicks inside 50, holding free kick.
Here he goes.
Joel Amati straight in front, 25 out.
Kick a drop kick.
He won't miss this, surely, will he, Jamo?
Oh,
what are you going to put on it?
I'm going to say he's going to handball to Haywood.
He can't miss this.
Is he going to snap or is he going to have a drop punt?
Joel Amati.
He's not sure what he wants to do.
The crowd is starting to... Here we go.
Everyone watches in anticipation.
Planes on the runway.
Joel Amati trapped in a recurring nightmare. Kick straight in front.
No way.
7 misses.
I think it's 8.
Oh, Joel Amati.
Wowee. What is it? All right.
On a positive, he could have had a massive night and kicked 8 goals.
Well, he kicked 8 or 9 here against Adelaide, didn't he?
He did.
He did 9 goals last year.
All right, you're going to dive into the computer again, Aaron. What is the most points kicked by one player in a game?
I'm clocking off.
Moraes has gathered it from the kick in the middle of the ground. It worked well, the slingshot. Richards just chucks it on the boot and it works. Finlayson marks inside the forward 50.
What about the irony of that, Tom? They had no idea how to enter their forward 50 and they get an easy chest mark.
So Finlayson the sub, normally a pretty good kick. Amati 6 behinds and 2 out on the full tonight.
Most behinds in a game, Alex Jazelenko, 12 in 1969.
12, oh, wow.
Buddy's kicked 11 in 2007.
12 behinds. I've kicked 8 goal 5.
So Finlayson on the paint of the 50 on that left foot. got a bit under it here. It's not going to make the journey. Visentini flew and went through the legs of Murray's on the goal line. So minus score, Port 4-9-33, Sydney 7-17-59, 19 minutes score.
I would have just liked to have had 8 shots on goal.
We should stress with Joel Amati as well that he's had 6 behinds and 2 out on the fulls.
Did Jezza kick a goal, or was it just 12 behinds?
Let me go check for you.
What a superstar he was.
He had 6 goals that day and 12 behinds.
He had 18 shots.
Sydney by 26. 6 minutes to play. We're unravelling here at the Adelaide Oval. I think Port Adelaide know it. That their hopes of a victory are fading away.
Is that the one name every person that's ever played the footy taken a hanger in the backyard and just yelled out Jezelenko?
Yeah, or Modra.
Oh, in recent times.
It was Godra and Jezelenko.
Tossed in, didn't go too far. Back on the footy.
Did you ever do that, Aaron?
Actually, story for you later. Vicentini wins it down. Rosie tries to kick around the body up towards the 50. Bobbles off a couple of bodies. Pal Pepper now wrestling for it. Couldn't control the footy. The Swans win out. Rampy hands it to Heaney. McInerney got it out wide. Cunningham to Heaney. McInerney bowled over by Butters but got it away. Good movement here from the Swans. Campbell up to right half forward. Bergman battling there with McLean out the back door. Picked up in a dummy from Hayward. Showed it to them. Central kick to McLean. Now to centre half forward. Won't matter because 50. It's a 50. Liddy moved off the mark and McLean will be marched in for a gimme goal.
Look at the options those Sydney had.
Everywhere.
Weren't they?
Absolutely everywhere, Jamo. They are running all over Port Adelaide. And to be fair, right from the start of the game, they've been running all over them. They've looked more energised.
There's a lot of people leaving.
Hayden McLean straight in front. 15 out, couple of steps, and opens his account. Sydney up by 32 points. A game-high margin now. And Port fans are exiting in droves. 8-17-65 to 4-9-33. 5 minutes to play on ABC Sport.
I might change my tip. I'm going to go for St Kilda.
It's been a day for it, hasn't it?
But, yeah, you're right, Jamo. They've just, right from the first bounce, Sydney have just looked a class above Port Adelaide tonight. And just with everything, their effort, their energy, they look like they're running better than Port. Port have had a crack, but just Sydney, just too good. Too good.
So McLean, after kicking that goal, was hobbling back to full forward.
So he got his right calf heavily strapped, but I don't know whether it's a knee or an ankle or his calf. He's not in a good way.
So we're back in the middle of the ground. We'll keep our eye on Hayden McLean. After that goal, Visentini tries to run through, but he's wrapped up big time by Grundy in the 360. So Grundy's had 18 touches, 32 hit-outs, 10 contested possessions, and the combination of Visentini and Sweet was just 8 touches and 24 hit-outs, so he's completely dominated. Free kick going to Visentini, handballs it off to Burton, and he finds the chest of Georgiades. He marks 40 metres out away to the right on a slighter angle.
Yeah, Ryan Burton coming off the half-back line in his day. Here comes Hayden McLean, actually, to the bench. Not in good shape. He is limping. Amati's going to come back on.
Very strange injury, really. Like he marched, through to that 50-metre penalty goal and he's returning to his spot at full forward. He started hobbling.
I think he must have... Surely he's done something when he's kicked that goal.
So in comes Georgiades, 40 metres out. Hits it nice enough, but pulls it to the left. Minus score, Port 4-10-34. Sydney 8-17-65. 23 minutes gone.
What a crazy night. 12 goal, 27.
Hasn't been pretty watching. Neither of these sides really pressing their September credentials. Blakey plays on, hands it to Rampy. Now Roberts over the top to Sheldrick. Gets it back. The Langon Creek product. Drills the kick straight to Butters. Cut in front of Jordan. Kick on the 45 looking for Liddy. Rampy with the fist. Bouncing of bodies, and Chad Warner just bursts through them all. Kicks up towards the attacking edge. Grundy gets it back to the Chad. Into the 50. Campbell marks top of the goal square. Gee, at full flight, Chad Warner, unstoppable.
That is elite. Absolutely elite. I was actually going to say, he's been pretty quiet tonight, Warner, but Geez, when he does things like that.
Just leg speed, isn't it, too? And
unbelievable.
Then Campbell, too. He just anticipated where the footy was going to go. Once again, Brodie Grundy with the handball. He receives it. And the speed to create an option.
Slight angle to the left, and Campbell isn't troubled at all. He kicks his first of the evening. Sydney's 9th of the night. 9-17-71 to Port 4-10-34. And the lead's out to 37 points now here at the Adelaide Oval. Our producer, Akash Fodater, has got in touch and says the record for behinds in a game without a goal is held by Justin Longmuir. Kicked 7 behinds against the Bulldogs in round 20, 2003. And the story for you about Jazelenko, Jamo, is I took one hanger in my junior career.
Mm-hmm.
My mum didn't see it. She was chatting to a friend on the sideline.
Oh.
Devastated.
Have you haven't been able to move on?
No. Still don't call her.
Can I do anything?
We need some mediation.
Are you okay?
Maybe we can recreate it.
Yes, I want to see that.
Make sure we're recording, please. Out of the clearance goes Rosie, handballed over the top to Jason Horne-Francis at centre half forward. His chip kick over the top is landed perfectly in the lap of Darcy Byrne-Jones. He marks 30 metres out directly in front.
He's been quiet tonight too, hasn't it? Just that kick, Jason Horne-Francis out of the middle, was just a chip and no one really went for it. And I think once Darcy Byrne-Jones realised, he was just going to allow it to bounce as well.
Wasting no time is Darcy Byrne-Jones. Port Adelaide trailing by 37 points. Byrne-Jones' kick is a good one, so brings it back to 31 points. Port Adelaide 5-10-40. Sydney 9-17-71. 26 minutes gone in the final term.
Certainly Hayden McLean, Aaron Francis are on the bench for Sydney. Subbed out. Hayden McLean, not quite sure what's going on. Dean Cox is up. He's walked out to the sideline.
Just the crowd's thinned out, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's quick. They've all departed.
33,000 in attendance, but probably dropped down to 20 now. Starting to get a bit chilly in Adelaide as well, but some better footy to come. Collingwood and St Kilda at the Docklands next with Matt Clinch, Lauren Borden, Daniel Harford and Chad Wingard. Earlier, North Melbourne defeating Carlton by 11 points. So a day of upsets. The underdogs have got up.
I'm changing my tip.
Can the Saints pull off something special at the Docklands, rather. Toss up in the middle. Grundy wins it down. Farrell there. Little 1-2 with Vicentini. Shoots a handball up to Powell Pepper at centre half forward. Goes for a run. Pulls the trigger. And a late highlight for the Power. Powell Pepper pulls it back to a 25-point deficit. 6-10-46. Plays 9-17-71. Saturday footy on ABC Sport with Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson.
He's been a real positive, I guess, throughout the game, hasn't he?
Yeah, and they put him in the midfield as we sort of thought they might have to. And I think Powell Pepper has been one of their best tonight. He's had a real crack, as he always does. But I would like to see him play more through the midfield. I just don't think he gets enough time in there. And sometimes you need a bit of X factor going through there with a bit of toughness and a bit of grunt. I'd like to see Port play him a little bit more in there.
I think, again, it's probably the Ollie Wines factor. They're just not going to play both of those players in the middle of the ground. So Ollie Wines out tonight with a knee, and Alir also missing. So in the middle, they have missed that grunt work.
Grundy down to Jordan, shakes off Rosie. Kicks towards the 50. Radaglia gets front position on Amadi. Takes the intercept mark. Now, James Jordan, quietish night with 14 touches, but has impacted Connor Rosie, who's had 24, but hasn't really been damaging. Radaglia thumps it towards the eastern side. Horne-Francis went for the biggest climb of all on top of Grundy. Just couldn't get the height in the end. He tried to stick a knee into the shoulder of Big Grundy. Hits the deck and Rowbottom's wrapped up. That was audacious.
I think you're going to find once again 7 games Port Adelaide have lost when they've kicked more behinds than they have goals, and here they are, 2 minutes remaining. They've kicked 6-10 again tonight.
Mills out of the stoppage up to half forward. Throw a blanket over them on the drop. Zerk Thatcher becomes the tackler on Chad Warner. So both these sides headed for prime time next week. Port Adelaide hosts Carlton on Thursday, which almost feels like a doomsday clash for the Blues after today's performance. And then Sydney hosts the Western Bulldogs at the SCG on Friday. Out of the stoppage, Heaney arcs away, shows some candy with a little side step, and his kick up towards McLean cops a fist. Knocked over the boundary line, 25 out.
Well, must have had cramp. He's back on. He's not limping. He's moving okay, but he still has that right calf heavily strapped. Can the Saints get over Collingwood tonight?
Oh, it'd be something very special.
No. All right, I'll leave him a tip.
Tossed in. Both rucks miss it. Burgoyne at the back battling with Hayward. Burgoyne wins out in game 50. Hands it across to Rosie, then Zerk Thatcher. Chip pick. There was about 2 metres to Ratugolea. Wasn't expecting it, but made it work. Long exit up towards the Williams stand, and there's a whistle on the drop. It was about to be a turnover, but Port Adelaide will keep the footy through Richards. The former Magpie looks inboard on the 45 to Liddy. Poor first half. He's picked up in the second. Through centre wing. Pepper had 2 to beat. Rises above McInerney and then is crunched from behind as McCartan lands on top of him. And the ball rose over the line on the eastern wing. We'll get some reaction down in the rooms as well with Tom Wilson.
So I wonder if Sam Pepper has an ice bath in his house.
Indeed, after some of the hits today. He's taken out 2 teammates and copped a couple himself. Tossed in. He tries to wrap up Roberts here. The Swan wins out. Grundy breaks through a couple. Gives it off to Roberts, then back to Chad Warner. Now McCartan in defensive 50. Couple to beat. Georgiades closed. He got it away. Grundy, left half back. They're just toying with Port Adelaide now. Drawing players in and then giving it off. Mills down the line looking for Amati. Off hands. Burgoyne's at the back. Gives it off to Zerk Thatcher. And now through the centre square is Farrell. Drills it towards the 50. In the hole between 5 Port players. It skids past Georgiades when Francis tried the soccer and missed. And Sydney again get the exit to the eastern side. Ratugolea flying from late. Takes the mark. Gives it to Liddy. Spots a target in the scoreboard pocket, but it's sat an eternity on the way to Bergman. And a fist comes in from Rampy to knock it over the line.
That's when you see Sydney at their best, isn't it? Rampy's doing that sort of thing, the run, the rebound. They've been hard at it. I've been impressed. Sydney haven't been good all year, but tonight, maybe the couple of big inclusions in Goulden, Papley and Armady, albeit he has been a target, but he hasn't damaged him on the scoreboard.
Tossed in, Vicentini down towards the 50 for the power. When Francis in, wrapped up by a couple. Too high, so he will get a free kick after the siren. Even though they're playing the Swan song, it's going to go to Joe Richards. You can enjoy it for a bit, but we've still got a set shot to come here.
That's bizarre, isn't it?
And there it is.
Now they've turned it down.
It's been one of those days at the Adelaide Oval. The Bronx cheers as the song does come back down. And Joe Richards will take his set shot. Richards crosses the paint of 50. Long approach. Plenty of power. And the crowd rises to celebrate a late highlight. Sydney get the chocolates, though. There's a pulse in the Bloods. Sydney by 19. They got the jump on Port Adelaide early, but just couldn't convert. 1-6 to 2 behinds at the first change. Sydney up by 10. They led by 18 at the major break. Still inaccurate. 4 goals, 10 at that stage. And finally, they started to get on top of Port Adelaide with some better goal scoring. Ultimately winners by 19 points. 9-17-71 to Port Adelaide 7-10-52. Port Adelaide's season gets a little tricky from here. Sydney's got a decent run. Can they make it all the way back to September?
Shake down the thunder from the sky. Whether the odds be great or small, Swans will go in and win overall. While our loyal Swans are marching onwards to victory.
The Stars are back and so are the Swans. They rack up their 6th victory of the campaign. And they've got the Dogs, the Dockers, the Saints and the Roos across their next month. And the tougher games are at home. So they feel bullish about their prospects after a grand final blowout. Can they turn a tough start around? Can Dean Cox lead them back towards finals footy? Sydney winners by 19 points. We're with you for the next 35 minutes before we take you to Docklands for Collingwood and St Kilda. So Tom Wilson standing by downstairs to get the song and some reaction. Your thoughts are welcome on the text line 0437 774 774. And of course the thoughts of our experts on ABC Sport Premiership players Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson.
Well, I think Sydney in the end they were far too clean. Their run and their handball receives were significant to be able to carry the football and get it over the back, and how clean they were with their foot disposal to hit someone up the ground. Their forward handballs and their exiting from contest and structure and set up around the contest was superior. Brodie Grundy was great in the middle of the ground, and 17 behinds, they could have just iced the game almost at quarter time. Yeah. And you could have said the same at half time, 3/4 time, but their kicking was just appalling in front of goal. They've had a bad day, but yet they've been able to get up and win on a ground where they have struggled in the past.
Yeah.
It's a good win.
Their system was really good tonight. They came with a really big plan, a really good plan to beat Port Adelaide, and you could just tell from the first couple of minutes they were at Port Adelaide. They were just at them, and it put Port Adelaide on the back foot, and it set the tone for the rest of the game, really. And the way they moved the ball from their back half with, Mills and Blakey, they just switched angles, they went at speed, they got handball receives, they changed angles, they knew when to go quick, when not to go quick. Just their efficiency, they're obviously their goal kicking was poor tonight, but everything else with their game was in good order tonight, and that's the Sydney we know, and what they are capable of. And yeah, they dominated Port Adelaide tonight, and they might be on the march. They can stay healthy and start producing what they brought tonight. They're going to make their way, close to the 8. But yeah, they were sensational tonight. They got some really good players, as we know, but. Port Adelaide, they just looked out of it tonight. They're just not at the level. Not enough players winning their positions. Midfield was down. Even though Butters had good numbers, it just wasn't a normal Butters game. They just weren't at the level tonight. And full credit to Sydney. They were sensational.
It's a huge relief for Dean Cox, isn't it? You look at the injury list they've had through the years. So Mills, Goulden, Papley, Amati, Adams, McInerney, Cunningham, and McDonald's probably the big one. They haven't had him, and their leading goal kickers are all small forwards.
That's 8 out of their best 22.
So all of a sudden the pressure was on Dean because he's inherited a grand final side and they're underperforming. But they didn't have their heavy hitters, and they get them all back today, and it looks like a totally different team.
Well, I think it just highlights how, again, the competition and how tight it is. You have 8 of your best out at certain points, then take into account form. When they're in the side, what are they doing and what impact are they having? Your opposition is at quality and don't give you the opportunity. You don't have to be off your game by much, and you get blown away in this game, and that has happened to them. To lose 4 out of the first 15 rounds at the SCG, that is almost like you go up there and you struggle. They really do hold that as a real fortress. But in your craft, Brogues here, like Sydney tonight had 35 hit-outs. Brodie Grundy had 34 of them. McLean had 1. But clearances and first possession, and it looked reasonably even across all 4 quarters. But Grundy in that last quarter, he had 12 hit-outs, 3 to advantage, and then the clearance work, again, Heaney, Jordan, Grundy had 2 on his own, McInerney, first possession. I thought his last quarter was probably the best, but I thought his role tonight was significant.
Yeah, and their efficiency from their clearances, what they got out of them. I mean, Port were okay in that space, but it felt like a lot of dump kicks or scrubber kicks out of stoppages, whereas Sydney had good system coming out of their stoppages, and when they went forward, they just used the ball a lot better, and their forward efficiency was pretty on point.
Clearances 36 to 31, contested Sydney won 25, or 125 to 101. The ground ball stuff was just all Sydney into the 50, 51 to 35. So again, the margin was very flattering, 19 points in the end, and Port Adelaide did kick a couple late in that last quarter, but yeah, it was really disappointing from Port Adelaide, but well done to Sydney.
Which was similar to their result over Richmond before the bye. They kicked 11 goals, 14-80 there when they dominated the inside 50 count. So maybe just one to look at for Sydney, that it's probably starting to click around the ground, but that forward line is still finding its feet. And again, it doesn't have its best players, so we'll see if that's the cause. Maybe once Logan McDonald returns. The Swans are making their way down the race, winners by 19 points. Let's check in with Tom Wilson downstairs.
They're almost ready to sing. 6th win of the season, waiting for the local boy Brodie Grundy to get in there. A lot of smiles in these change rooms, understandably. We'll have Isaac Heaney when he's ready to go.
Can't wait for it. Tom Wilson downstairs as part of ABC Sport, and Collingwood and St Kilda from Docklands coming your way next with Matt Clinch, Lauren Borden, Daniel Harford and Chad Wingard. So Will Hayward finishes with 3 goals, Isaac Heaney with 2, singles to McLean, Campbell, Blakey and McInerney. For the Power, all individual, Pepper, Butters, Rioli, Horn-Francis, Georgiades and Burn-Jones. On the text line, Simon in the York Peninsula wasn't overly happy about me branding Thursday night as a doomsday clash. Says the Roos have been playing well and the Blues had a crack in the last quarter. Home advantage is a thing of the past these days. So he feels like the Port Adelaide and Carlton game could be better than what we're kind of looking at it, considering the Roos upset Carlton earlier today. Brett says, great call. I'm a frustrated Blues supporter, but admired Sydney's run and carry, and Heaney is an absolute legend. He has hurt Port Adelaide the last couple of meetings. He's had 24 touches, 2 goals and 10 votes in the Gary Ayres medal, despite being followed by Willem Drew in the prelim, and tonight has backed it up with 28 touches as well, 5 clearances, 13 contested possessions, and to cap it all off, he's downstairs with Tom Wilson.
It certainly is. Great game from Isaac Heaney. We'll get to you on a personal note in a moment, mate. But outside of the team's goal kicking, that must be pretty typical Swans footy that you want to be playing and the fans want to see.
Yeah. I think it's slowly getting back to a bit of Bloods footy. We obviously focus on our contests and our sort of pressure and our tackling, and that's sort of got us back in the games. And the last few weeks it's been a lot of ball movement. We're still not back to probably last year's ball movement form, but it's improving week in, week out, and to get a few personnel back too, and helps with that synergy. You know where each other are going to be. You know, Paps, Errol, they just so composed with the footy, which helps massively.
What about your skipper, Callum Mills? He's only played 10 games in 3 years, but he's got that roll back across halfback. He really sets you up alongside Nick Blakey.
Yeah, we've got a few of those boys, but Millsy's a bit of a general down there. No matter where he goes, he's so calm, he's tough, and he sets the tone. So I think there's a reason why he's a captain. I know he hasn't played much footy, but he's an unbelievable captain, unbelievable leader, and you can just see the way he goes about things, and also a very good ball user. So we love him down back, and like I said, he's a bit of a general.
Errol Goulden and Tom Papley back, and you put the pressure on from the first bounce. I know they're not your tallest guys, but do they make you walk taller out there?
Absolutely. Their intent with and without the footy is incredible, and sometimes they can probably pull things off and turn it over in dangerous spots, but you take that when they're doing the other things, the pressure around the footy. I think Errol had a few really important tackles, perhaps pressure in the forward line, and then obviously their silkiness going forward is pretty incredible, and we've missed that probably the first half of the season.
Rod Jamison and Dean Brogan are upstairs.
Hey, Isaac, congratulations, mate. Dean Brogan here. Great game by yourself and your team tonight. It looked as though tonight you got back to speed of ball movement and punch off half back, and when a lot of handball receives and a lot of changing of angles, which gave your forwards good looks. Is that something that Dean Cox and the coaching staff, have said, you've got to get going, boys, let's move the ball a lot quicker and get back to the way we're used to playing?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it starts with being clean and composed with the footy from the get-go, and then from there we're using our numbers, and then I guess it's the timing of the speed and the footy and the positioning on the ground that we've got to do it. We're still learning that, and we definitely took a really good step forward in that aspect, but getting the ball in our ball users' hands, important who has it, knowing what they want to do, and then the boys, I guess the other boys setting up and playing their role. So it's it's important, like I said, to have those ball users with the ball and the other boys to set it up from there.
And you haven't had your best 22 out for pretty much all year. You've had horrible injuries to key players. Do you feel now you get these players back that you're still a chance to have a crack at this year and you have a bit of luck with injuries that you can get back to where you guys were last year?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the first half of the year we didn't want to use it as an excuse, and I think it kind of shows that it does impact it pretty heavily, especially with certain personnel and key players, in certain roles. But I think it's a good step forward down here. First win in 10 years, and we knew it was going to be a big challenge. They're in good form again, so to do that down here is pretty impressive, and we'll take a lot of confidence out of that. And now we'll obviously see how we go next week against a quality side, especially an unbelievable midfield and the Dogs. But yeah, getting those players back, a bit of synergy. We're starting to roll, which is nice, and we've got to. I mean, for us, there's not really much wiggle room, so we've got to do it week in, week out, and a bit cliche, but we can only focus a week at a time.
Isaac, Rod Jamieson, huge win, 17 behinds tonight. How does that feel on the ground? No? Again, you took Joel Armady in that last quarter. He took a couple of marks, and I felt he didn't even want to have a shot on goal.
Yeah, maybe we should. Spend the whole week goal kicking, do 1,000 each. I don't know. It's I think in our twos as well, the same thing sort of happened. So we've had a few games. I think was it Carlton earlier in the year? We had another game where we kicked so many behinds and it cost us a game. So yeah, we've got to get. I mean, bad kicking's bad footy. So we've got to get onto the field and practice that and. Get a bit of confidence in especially our big boys' hands.
I'll tell you what's seriously good. You had 6 left-footers in your team tonight. It just changes and opens up the game incredibly, and all those left-footers are incredibly skillful.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't know why is it the left footer's always got an unbelievable kick?
Yeah, I don't know, isn't it?
I hate it. Frustrates me.
Your left foot's not that bad either, Isaac. That left foot goal's not bad.
I appreciate it, Hey,
what about Brodie Grundy's game tonight too? He's a big man, he's second efforts, and he just presents you with the footy week in, week out.
His form at the moment's incredible. I absolutely love him. What he does is he's physical, he's emotionally invested, and I think the nicest thing, throughout the week, he's so vulnerable with what he does with the club and how he opens up, and then it makes boys feel comfortable. And then for him to go out and be that massive presence and dominate games like he is incredible, and gives players like myself first use in there. We get proactive with the footy before we even get the footy, I should say, around the stoppage, and that makes them the biggest, the world of difference.
Isaac Heaney's with us on ABC Sport after the Swans' 19-point victory over the Power. Aaron Bryan's here, Isaac. I've got to ask you about that goal kicking. Not so much the inaccuracy, but just how you're navigating the loss of Logan McDonald. To have yourself and Will Hayward as your top 2 goal scorers, it feels very small ball these days. Chad Warner's hitting the scoreboard as well. How have you been able to adapt without, I guess, your star key forward being down there?
Yeah, well, that's probably our biggest thing. Joel's obviously been injured or suspended, so... I mean, if we can share the load, it's a good thing, but we probably haven't been kicking the amount of goals that we'd like to, and Logan's a sharpshooter, so I'm not sure how far off he is, but it is super important that we make the most of our opportunities, because there's going to be games where it'll be like tonight, if we keep missing, where it'll cost us, and like I said before, we don't have any wiggle room, and we do miss those sort of players, but at the same time we've got other boys back that perhaps is normally a really sharpshooter too, and I mean, we'll get back into a bit of goal kicking form, we'll be right.
How is Joel Armady? 8 misses tonight. He looked like by the end of it he didn't want to take any set shots.
Is that right? Did he kick one?
He didn't.
He kicked 6 behinds and 2 out in the full.
No, we'll give him a bit of confidence going into the week. Maybe we'll sit him down and just say, mate, don't worry about any meetings, don't worry about any training, just kick the goals.
Hey, Isaac, I've always watched Sydney intently. Like Sydney at the SCG, you've lost 4 there. That's something clearly that you want to get back on top of this year.
Our losses at the SCG? Sorry, I missed a bit of that.
Yeah, 4 this year that you've lost to the SCG.
Absolutely. You want to make that a fortress. Totally. Especially we obviously travel a lot. So when we don't, it's important to make the most of it. And I feel like we'll get back into a bit of form there, but it's not ideal, but we'll make it a fortress again.
Hey, Isaac, just before we let you go, St Kilda's ramping up its push to abolish the Northern Academies. You are one of the success stories out of Sydney's academy. Can you tell us why it's so important for the Swans to have that accessibility to some of the players in New South Wales?
Oh, it's important so they don't get poached by the other sporting codes. I mean, I don't know whether I would have made it, but I would have definitely given it a crack at NRL if I wasn't in the academy. And I was in there from the age of 12, and if it wasn't for the academy, I would have not been playing AFL and would have given NRL a crack. My whole family loved it, and all my friends. I was the only one at school playing it, and it's the only thing that kept me playing AFL was the academy. So if you want to lose players to other codes, then I mean we can abolish it, but I think it's super important for those northern clubs.
We're very thankful that it found you, Isaac, because you're playing some tremendous footy. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Great to have Isaac Heaney from the Sydney Swans, winners by 19 points. And he had 2 goals on top of his 28 touches that I read out earlier. 5 clearances, 13 contested, 6 score involvements. So just once again leading the charge for Sydney.
That's significant in terms of what he just said about the academies, isn't it, too? I mean, they have done it for years and years, and they were probably one of the first to establish, and they would not hide him away, but we were unaware that there was talent and quality up there. And I think that those types of pathways, particularly in those northeastern states, was significant to the growth and development of Sydney, and he's been an absolute superstar since coming to the game.
It's such a fine balance, isn't it? Because the northern teams are starting to be very competitive, and they're getting some really good players out of those academies that could tip the scales in their favour. But we also, don't want to lose stars to the other codes when, at the end of the day, the AFL is the second sport in Queensland and New South Wales.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of talent up that way, and he's obviously one of the best ones to come out of it. But there's a lot of kids coming through. Even the Giants have got some access to a bit of that as well. But look, is it making a huge difference to the AFL in terms of favouritism? Probably not. I
think the father-son's hurting more these days.
There's other issues more than what we just spoke about then.
Or do we just all accept that Queensland and New South Wales are going to be NRL driven and are that way inclined, and the AFL and I guess GWS, Sydney, Gold Coast, Brisbane will continue to invest in their AFL programs and their own academies, but you almost have to accept that NRL are quite dominant in those states.
Yeah, it's such a tricky argument. I can understand why St Kilda are aggrieved by what's going on, because they're missing out on some star players.
I think we need to pull back a little bit there. I think St Kilda, they've probably done it to themselves a little bit too.
They've had some bad drafting, haven't they, Jim?
Well, and they, I guess their choice is to move around where they are now back at Moorabbin and they're building it, and they've only won one premiership, or was it 1968, I think I'm correct in saying.
Longest active drought.
Yep. So, look, I think you have to take account for your own actions at times, and albeit they probably haven't had the rub of the green over the journey, but you've got to give credit to other clubs and that have been able to do it and do it well.
With you for the next 20 minutes before we head to Docklands for Collingwood and St Kilda, the thoughts of Rod Jamieson and Dean Brogan, your experts. We'll touch on Port Adelaide in a moment's time as well, and Tom Wilson's going to do his best to get over for some reaction in their rooms. Just want to hear from Dean Cox quickly, who spoke to the host broadcaster afterwards about Joel Amartey's 8 missed shots.
Yeah, he kicked the goal in total, just unfortunately with 6 points. So, and that's one thing that, you want players to do, is to try and work their way through it. Something that they do is go through a routine, and they didn't work tonight. So for Joel, the first part is, I love how he presents up at the ball and he gave himself so many opportunities to have shots. So that's the first part, and now it's about finishing, so we'll get to work.
It was a rough night for him, so he missed 4 games with a hamstring injury, then was suspended on return for a bump on Jordan Boyd, comes back into the side, and 8 missed shots, so 6 behinds, 2 out on the full, and by the end of it, he just didn't want the footy. There were a couple of set shots where he was looking to give it away. The final miss was straight in front, 20 out from a free kick. And it's going to be a problem for Sydney, because as we touched on with Isaac Heaney, Logan McDonald hasn't been there. Their small forwards are the ones kicking the goals at the moment. Hayden McLean does his job. He's actually now gone 11 consecutive games kicking at least a goal, but he rarely gets any more than a goal. So if Joel Amartey's not in form, you start to lose a target up forward.
Well, I think it's an easy fix. Just certainly looking, I don't know him, never met him, but just the way his routine, I thought, was a little off tonight, or almost poor. Like, it was like 4 or 6 just steps without no intent to to run forward or jog forward, which then actually propels the footy forward. So if he actually just came back and maybe took an extra 6 or 8 steps, got into a bit of a jog and actually head over the footy, he might have kicked a few. But I think he continued to present, and he was a target. but I think it's an easy fix.
Yeah, and we've seen he can kick 9 goals. We saw him kick 9 against Adelaide last year. And I like what Dean Cox said. He kept presenting it. He didn't hide from not trying to take marks. And, he's had 8 shots on goal. So you look at the positives. He's had 8 shots on goal on Asava Radaglia, who's in really good form. He kicks 5 goals 3. He's had a massive night out. I'm probably one of the informed defenders of the competition. So, look, you just put that one behind you and you work on your routine during the week, Jamo, and you get back on the horse.
Last one on the Swans. So 2 games out of the 8 now. Gold Coast, the Giants and the Dogs still have to play. So that it could be a little more depending on how those games play out. If there's a draw tomorrow, then in the Expansion Cup, maybe it's that extra win behind. But can they make it from here, Brogues?
Well, yeah, I think they can. I think they can. We know they're best at their best. They are. Well, they made the grand final last year. They're a very good side. Like Isaac Heaney just said, there's not much more room for error. But I reckon they can. I reckon if there is going to a team to sneak in, I think it's them. I reckon they can.
The only thing working against them is their percentage, so I think they sit at 92% after tonight. So you'd argue that's another win and you'd be kind of 3 behind.
Yeah.
But they've got a pretty decent run, as I've touched on. So a tough one at home against the Western Bulldogs, but they'd feel like after tonight they're in good enough form to maybe get them. And then Fremantle, St Kilda and North Melbourne after that for Sydney. Port Adelaide were the losers tonight after a 2-game winning streak came to a halt. They lost by 19 points and really struggled in terms of the inside 50 count across the night. Tom Wilson's downstairs for some reaction.
I'm with Joe Richards, Port Adelaide small forward. Thanks for joining us, mate. What's your sort of immediate reaction to what went on out there tonight?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Pretty disappointed. Coming into the game off the back of 2 wins, we're pretty pumped for the game, and I thought we got smashed in the contest and didn't give our forwards a great look going forward as we've done the last 2 weeks. So, at the moment, pretty disappointed.
They started so strong. Shell shock's probably not the right word, but they really put you on the back foot, didn't they?
Yeah, and that was our plan to pressure them early and make them cough the ball up, but I thought they did that to us, particularly in the first half. And I had to butter up in the second half, but it wasn't enough.
You sort of showed a bit in that second half. Early on, the kicking was just a bit off. Can you have those off days, or does that relate to the pressure from Sydney?
Yeah, it's probably credit to them. I thought they pressured us really well, and it made us cough the ball up, as you just said. So, even in front of goal, we're a bit wayward, as were they. So, I think you just have those days, especially when the pressure comes.
Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson are upstairs.
Joe Richards, Dean Brogan here, mate. Mate, I just thought tonight your ball movement was a bit stagnant. Now, is that because, Rosie had to come in the midfield a little bit? It just felt like you missed a little bit of punch off half-back tonight, and you didn't change angles enough, and you sort of kicked it long back down the line, which is what Sydney wanted you to do. Whereas I reckon the last couple of weeks, you have had some bounce off half-back, and you're moving the ball a little bit quicker. Did you feel like you were a bit stagnant back there tonight?
Yeah, I felt like we probably were a little bit. I think that's been a strength of ours the last couple of weeks, which is, a big part of why we've had those wins. So, obviously Rose went into the midfield in the second half, and it probably left us, a really good kick short down back, which could have played into that. So, we'll probably review that, I'd say.
And Miles Bergman's been sensational, as we know, all year. He started on Heaney, which I thought was a great matchup, but the second half he moved down back and Heaney was left to his own devices, really. Was there a coach's instruction to drop that tag, or what was going on there?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think with Connor going into the midfield, I'd say Miles would have went back and played as a vacuum back there in the second half, and I'm not sure on Heaney's stats, but it seemed like he had a fair bit of the ball in the second half. So, and as I said, we got smashed in the contest. So, maybe that was a thing that Kenny had.
Joe, Rod Jamieson, well done on your own game too. Dante Vicentini and Jordan Sweet, it was always going to be hard up against Brodie Grundy. He's a man mountain.
Yeah, people forget sort of how good he is, Brodie. I thought the boys did a really good job on Max Gawn last week, and used the 2 rucks again tonight. But I'm not sure of the stats, but I thought they probably held their own a little bit. see what happens moving forward.
Yeah, no, they did okay, but unfortunately Brodie did get on top. He had 34 hit-outs and he had a fair bit of the football in himself as well. It was one of, I guess, I felt you were a little bit fumbly and a little jumpy early, which is quite unusual for a Port Adelaide team.
Yeah, potentially, as I said before, on the kicking, it was, they brought the pressure early and, made us cough the ball up, so maybe that was to do with it. Was a tad dewy, but probably didn't play into it that much. So, as I said, we'll probably review that as well.
Joe Richards with us on ABC Sport after Port's 19-point loss to the Swans. Joe, Brogues asked about it before, about the rotation of Connor Rozee and Miles Bergman. Did the knocks through the game play a factor? So Jason Horne-Francis comes in with essentially one arm. He looked very proppy after that shoulder incident, and then Miles Bergman cops a hit as well, and it just felt like some of the midfielders were walking wounded.
Yeah, potentially. I haven't seen how those boys pulled up, but credit to both of them. I think they're both battling a bit of a shoulder, so they managed to play the game out. But as I said, we got beaten in the contest, so I guess that's on the mids, and hopefully we can do something about it next week.
How are you finding the forward line at the moment, Joe? It's always a tricky task when you don't have your talisman available. So Mitch Georgiadis is kind of flying solo at times. He kicked 7 last week, but a tougher task tonight. Is it a really difficult task when you don't have Todd Marshall and Jack Lukosius to lean on?
Yeah, it can be, yeah. I think Sam Powell-Pepper and Jez Finlayson, when they came on, they give us a bit of a look in the air. But a lot of it probably gets left up to Mitch, and if we're not composed with the ball and don't use it well inside 50, it can make it a bit hard. There's a bit of a reliance on our small forwards to sort of be there for when the crumb is, but it is hard when you don't use it that well inside 50.
Joe, let's lighten it up for you a little bit. Do you read the footy record when you come pre-game?
No, I did last year a little bit, but not this year.
I'm just looking at a pocket profile, and they've got Hugh Jackson. What's the first item you'd pack on a road trip? What's yours? Joe, Hughes is a little boring, actually.
He didn't say his car or something, did he?
No, he just said water. First thing he'd pack on a road trip would be water.
It's probably smart by him. Maybe a bit of food.
What about the best-dressed teammate? You've only been at the club a short period of time.
Salvarado Galau, hands down.
Yeah. What about the worst?
Xavier Walsh.
Oh, there's a few there. Willem Drew. Hughes pulled out.
We might let you go, Joe. I think Jamo's taken up enough of your time. Thanks so much for chatting to us.
No worries.
All the best.
Joe Richards from the Port Adelaide Footy Club. Do you have stocks in the record or something, Jamo?
Oh, I just think it's important. There's all sorts of information, and I love these pocket profiles. Look. Now, what do you hear? This is interesting, Brogues. When you go to the fish and chip shop, is it a potato cake or a potato scallop?
It's a fritter, isn't it? Potato fritter.
You've thrown in the third one.
Jeez. Let's get back to the footy for a bit. For Port Adelaide lose by 19 points, so they're 6-8. Same record as Sydney, but tougher run ahead. We've got 10 minutes, by the way, till we head to the Docklands for Collingwood and St Kilda, so stay with us on the ABC Listen app. Don't worry, Jamo's good fun and games every now and again. So Port have Carlton on Thursday night, who suffered a pretty big loss to the Roos earlier today. It was only 11 points, but massive in the context of their season. So Carlton into Brisbane, West Coast, and then Hawthorn. So almost up, down in terms of the quality of opponent for Port. But Champion Data has their fixture as top 2 in terms of the hardest on the run home from here. So they're going to need a miracle, Brogues. They've got a history of it in terms of runs home. So last year they won 8 of their last 9. 2021 they won 9 of their last 10. 2020 8 of their last 9. So they can do it. I just don't know if the brand is consistent enough, is it?
Not this year. No. Look, they're having a crack. They're cracking in. They're just... Yeah, look, the system's just not working. It's too inconsistent. I thought last week they were really good the way they did it, and full credit to Sydney. Sydney just better team than them at the moment, and I think the record suggests they're even. But like Sydney's best 22 to Port's best 22 is a difference, and I just look. They're probably going to get to 10 wins, maybe. I think they're playing a lot of kids, which is great, and they just got to keep finding players and keep throwing some players around and mixing some things up and get to the end of the season and, the Josh Carr era starts. They weren't horrible tonight. They just couldn't move the footy. I think they really missed punch off half-back. I know Rosie had to go in the midfield tonight, but I thought they really missed some dynamic movement out of that back line. It was very stagnant. Lockie Jones came back in. He just goes straight down the line. Lockie Jones, that's his game. Farrell was nowhere tonight. They just missed that ball movement from half back, whereas last week they had it. And, that's why Mitch was starved of opportunities tonight. I think they only had, inside 50s, they had like 34 or 35 or something. So that's not going to get the job done. So a lot of work to do, as we know, but I think they'll get to about 10 wins this year.
Sydney were bad in front of goal tonight, and I think that's a bit of an anomaly, but this has been a current theme for Port Adelaide the last 2 years. So again, they have now lost 8 games where they have kicked more behinds than they have goals. It is seriously costing them. They don't have the target up forward. You talk about the spread. There is not enough spread kicking goals, and now Georgiades is the focus. And I think tonight, Ollie Wines and Aaliyah being out, they are the 2 most significant outs in this team, and that was hugely evident tonight because they weren't able to help Ratugolea in the back half and Zach Thatcher, and then they just couldn't carry the footy. So,
and then what it does too, Jamo, is that Ollie was out and you called it. Rosie has to come into the midfield, so I just thought they just lost a bit of that punch because of those injuries. To Ollie and Aaliyah. So, they're just not. They are where they are.
We joke about it all the time, but it's an absolute roller coaster to support Port Adelaide. I feel for their fan base because one week they look like world beaters and the next they're bottom 4 side. And Ken Hinkley always says, the media is so reactive. And how can you not be when you watch them one week and they look tremendous and they just can't back it up? It's frustrating, and they, ultimately it balances out as a middle of the pack team that probably doesn't feature in September.
Yeah.
Votes. Who's got the 3, 2 and 1?
Jono's got them.
Well, I've written a few down. Zach Butters deserves a mention. It's going to be difficult to give a Port Adelaide player a vote tonight. I think Sam Powell-Pepper also probably deserves a mention for what he was able to do, but I'm going to give one vote to Nick Blakey. Port Adelaide could not stop him running off the halfback line, and I thought his game was incredibly influential. I thought Callum Mills doesn't get a vote tonight, Aaron, but he was very close to being in it. Brodie Grundy's game was almost complete, in terms of what he was able to do, to service, get around the ground. And he had 22 disposals going at 73%. And he had 11 contested, 6 clearances himself, 3 inside 50s and the 34 hitouts. Isaac Heaney, I just love watching him play. He looks effortless. He goes into the midfield. He plays incredibly well in heavy traffic. He goes forward. He's absolutely dangerous, whether it be on the ground or aerial. That goal where he kicked across his right shoulder and kicked on his left foot, ended up with 2-1 for the night. I thought he was the most influential player on the ground.
So 3 to Heaney, 2 to Grundy, 1 to Blakey.
Yep.
Swans winners by 19 points. No late changes at Docklands. Collingwood and St Kilda coming away in a couple of minutes' time. Lockie Sullivan is the sub for Collingwood and Toby Travalia for the Saints. So Alex Taru is going to make his debut for the Saints, which is very exciting as well. And, the way the day's gone, maybe another upset's on the cards with North Melbourne defeating Carlton by 11.
Well, all 3 of you didn't give me any confidence, so I've left my tip as is. I'm going for the hot pies.
It's always hard to tip against Collingwood. They always burn you when you do. Thursday night, just quickly looking ahead, so Port Adelaide and Carlton to start round 16. Gee, the pressure's on Michael Voss and Ken Hinkley now.
Huge game, isn't it, for both teams, for so many reasons.
For all the wrong reasons.
For all the wrong reasons, but... that's a 50-50 game, isn't it, next Thursday?
Two good buddies coming back together,
I'm not sure who. You probably pick Port at home, I guess. I didn't see any Cullen today, but they're not flying, are
Rumblings are that Aaliyah probably won't get up for it either.
Yeah, I doubt Ollie will as well.
I guess the middle period here for Port Adelaide, 7 games. I picked them to win 3. They've only won 2. It's been hard. Now they go into 16 to 24. I think they can win the next 5, but on form, I'm probably going to have to pull back and change that. I think they'll be lucky to get to 10 wins, and 5 of those games are away, albeit one of them's a showdown too. So I think it's going to be a tough sort of finish to Port Adelaide for the year with the run that they actually have to play. And they got the Hawks, Geelong, Fremantle, Gold Coast and Brisbane to get through during that block.
Reminder as well that they don't have their first round pick. That's going to Gold Coast. It's part of the Jack Lukosius deal. So
it's big decisions to be made.
It's a tough place to be in.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of work to do. And Jason Horne-Francis is another one, like as you touched on through the call. He just didn't look
right tonight. No, that shoulder must be a bit of a worry. He just didn't look himself. Did some good things, mind you, but didn't look good tonight.
Can you push through jabbing it up, or is it worth that risk now that the season
what it is? It just depends what it is. If it's an AC joint or has he done some damage in there? Don't know what it is, but he did look a bit sore tonight.
Thoughts of Dean Brogan and Rod Jamieson. Thank you as always for your work on ABC Sport.
Love it. Thanks for having me.
Should give a shout out to Tom Wilson, who in the absence of Josh Money was crook today, did most of the commentary and then went downstairs to do all the work in the room. So great effort by Tom Wilson as part of the team. Huge thanks to Paul Brokenshire Tech, and back in the studio to Akash Fodada as well. Sydney winners by 19 points over Port Adelaide. Inaccurate night. 9-17-71 to Port's 7-10-52. 3 goals to Hayward, 2 to Heaney, singles to McLean, Campbell, Blakey and McInerney. Heaney had 28 touches as well. Mills is in some great form, so 25 against the Tigers, 27 tonight. Meanwhile for the Power, Zach Butters had 28 and Connor Rosie with 25. Earlier today, North Melbourne defeating Carlton by 11 points. So they notched their 4th win of the season. Cam Zerha kicked 3. Harry Sheasel had 30 touches and a goal as well. And the Blues now, their season starting to slip away a little bit. As is St Kilda's. They've got a tough task to come tonight at Docklands. Collingwood, their opponent. Matt Clinch, Lauren Borden, Daniel Harford and Chad Wingard, your commentary team, coming up next on ABC Sport. No late changes, so Pat Lipinski in for the Pies. Alex Taru to make his debut. Mateus Filippo's back as well. And the subs have been named for both those sides. So Lockie Sullivan for Collingwood and Toby Travalia for the Saints. We'll also wrap up all the day's play tomorrow as part of AFL Sunday in the build-up to, unfortunately, our overlapping games tomorrow. The Expansion Cup, the Giants and the Suns, and then the Dogs and Richmond. But you can hear it all on the ABC Listen app. Enjoy your night on ABC Sport.
Australia's Test Tour of the West Indies starts June 25.
What about that? Unbelievable!
Catch every ball on the ABC Listen app. Just look for the cricket button.